Yeah. Tomorrow.
That's awesome. All right. It says I'm supposed to let everyone know they're being recorded. So, as long as you consent to that, I think it'll work.
I was impaired when I consented.
Do I have to click this? I don't think I have to click it, do I?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay, recording started.
I guess if we get done with this whole thing and there's no video, then I guess we know it didn't work.
Maybe you got some audio.
Yeah.
You can put like her and then a better looking version of me. Just put like what's your hall pass? Dirk Bentley. Just impose Dirk Bentley right here.
Dirk Bentley.
Curly haired Dirk Bentley.
No,
not older.
He looks good. He looks good now. He's lost a little bit of weight and he's looking good, I think. I don't know. I can never tell, like, on social media, the videos you see, like, if it's current or if it's older.
Right.
Like,
if I had a younger, sexier picture, I would have that up all the time for myself.
Dirk Bentley. So our tip and trick on social media
Use
is
younger, sexier pictures.
Yeah, right?
And use other people's images.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you, yeah.
What what specifically would you have a question on, I guess?
Okay, so first tell me about your new album. Like, it's dropping tomorrow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's it called?
It's called Poor Man's Prayer.
Okay. How many songs are on it?
Well, 13, 12.
13. That's a big album.
Yeah. There's 2 covers on there. 2 years ago, just recorded an EP. It was a 6-song EP. I got done with that and I was like, I'm going to set a goal. I'm going to write a full album and come back here in a year and record that. So that was my plan. So I actually a year ago, probably now, I got the songs wrote, we got through there. There was a couple that squeaked through here like Train that just came together, but had the band guys in. We went to the studio and recorded pre-production in November of last year, and then we recorded for Sirius in January. And I thought, which I should really plug Mark Dom and the Warehouse Studios. He's my favorite person on earth besides my wife. And
careful.
We have a strange, quirky relationship. But anyway,
is that in Sioux Falls?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's really gifted, really just amazing to be around. And he lets me make music the way I like to, which is, it's all coming from the people I'm with and what I do. So anyway, I thought, well, we knocked that EP out in a weekend, so we'll get this and I'll have this out like.
Well, hold on. Preface that when we did the EP, we did it live, right? So it was the full band
tracking.
Just live tracked it. He edited what he could, right? But it was all live tracked. So that was our only experience of recording.
3 guys in a room, and then I overdubbed guitar solos and went back and sang harmonies on what I did, and that was it. Yeah. I never even stepped foot in a vocal booth before then, so I didn't know what I was, So so I figured, I'll have this album done. It'll be out this spring. But this time we tracked drums and then we tracked bass, and then I got super detailed with the guitars. Like, it was guitar day every week, and we'd go in and just the number of whiskey bottles that we had stacked up was like, we got to throw these away. This is bad. But I mean, we taught ourselves actually to drink whiskey this last year, Mark and I, because we'd go and then we'd have vocal day or guitar day or whatever. But so we took our time and really enjoyed it. And it was a good thing I really enjoyed doing it that way, because there's so many little touches that I thought of that I was like, I want a harmonica on this one. And then it was like, we got a harmonica player, and then the steel parts, I had Dave Wood in the past, and old Dave retired. He's 70. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to my buddy, Paul Walker, who we lived in Austin, Texas for a while. And he's he's a big deal to me. But we were talking, and he sent me a session he was working on, and I was like, damn, that guy's killer. And he goes, yeah, he plays with Jesse Daniel. And I was like, yeah, I don't have access to that kind of player. And then I was like, a day later, hey, do you think he would do mine? He's like, I'll ask him. And he's like, sure. So we got him to play. It was like we had these really cool elements that just came together just because we had the time.
That's
And
awesome.
so that was really cool. And those steel parts are smoking. I mean, they're good.
I can't wait to hear it.
So,
Yeah,
and it's
that's the beauty of doing it that way. You know, you can really, if you're going to put all that time and money into it, you know, you want at the end to be like, wow, you know, I love this. I'm super proud of it. So
yeah, it's really exhausting for me personally because I feel like at the end, like I have no more. I got nothing. I'll never write another song. Like I got no more. You know, the harmonies, singing the harmonies for me is just like torture.
right. So
Because
you did harmony.
well, I have, and I really thought we're gonna get somebody this time, and this one we'll get, you know, but it didn't work out, and then I was like, if it's gonna be done, I need to get it done. So then I had the raw tracks in the car and back and forth to work, singing them and figuring them out, and they drive me nuts until I get them, and you know,
There's nothing more appealing to a marriage to wonder what is that noise coming out of the band room, and then you walk in there and you listen and it's like him trying to sing. I don't know. I'm not a singer, so like falsetto or whatever. And I'm like, this is okay. This is what we're doing.
yeah. And I mean, there were some things that and we're getting way off topic on what you want to do here, but like the EP, I sang like a main vocal, maybe I double tracked it, and then sang a harmony over that. That was it. And maybe a fifth, or I don't know where it might have gone, but this time I was like, I just don't. I'm hearing different things, and then I started to understand a 3-part harmony. So I was like, this is wow when it's a 3-part. And then I discovered, well, if you sing like I'll Go Anywhere, which is like a cover we did. It's like if you sing and you keep it down and you sing like a what's the word I'm looking for? Falsetto, soft. It adds like this sheen to it. And I was like, that's the way it's supposed to sound. And I was like, they have a chick doing that. But I don't have a girl, so I'm gonna, you know.
And I can't sing, so I can't.
You didn't take lessons from him while he was down there in the music room?
Yeah, and Mark's like, when you hear it all together, it's like cool. And he goes, you got to listen to this. And he just sent me the isolated just falsetto. And it was like, oh my God, don't let anybody hear that. Because it's like, it's so bad. It's so cringy, but So I learned a lot. And that's what I like about the recording thing is learning. I just learn and get so much better every time.
I think one of the things that's worked for us, and that I don't know if we're different or not different in that regard, but we try to keep ourselves around people that get the mission and that are in our camp. And that's probably why this relationship between him and Mark Dom has been so great, is because it is somebody we've put a lot of time in and we've spent a lot of time with. So if we have questions, even outside of like the recording process, just level setting us, you know, trying to navigate the music industry, you have somebody that you trust is like a third person. We run Collin Donley music together. He does the creative element. I do all the business aspect to it.
Yep.
And we're married, right? So there's some complexity there. And sometimes we just need a third person to come in and go, okay, I'm the tiebreaker, and we've built that rapport with him where he can be that for us. And I think that's probably one of our tricks to what works for us, is that
people you trust.
We have that trust with certain people in our camp to just know they're going to make decisions they're going to help us make decisions that are best for us as a business and as a people, and not just looking out for themselves.
Yeah. And I think, I thought maybe about some of the things we might talk about or whatever on this, but you see it all the time, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, like
Oh yeah.
a singer and they're managed by their spouse. And it just, this business and this industry, there are so many folks with ulterior motives or whatever, or just especially like even bandmates, like maybe you line up for a time, but then interests differ, that can all change. But when you have a person that's in the business with you that you trust implicitly, it's a huge value, whether they're qualified or not, what I mean? Because once you recruit that person into your business and they learn, at least that you trust them.
Yep.
And they have strengths you don't. And I mean, you wouldn't recruit them if you didn't have strengths that you don't. In her case, Ashley is wicked smart on business elements. She's good looking, which helps me, but also I'm telling you, and you know this already, venue owners just love you good looking girls. These jackass guys like myself that are fast talking whatevers, they can take or leave, but they go, I remember that guy's wife and let's book him again. You know what I mean? And in your case, they're already booking.
So I'm your
you're my yes.
That's right. Us girls have to have some kind of edge because you guys have it pretty easy. We got to work for our spot.
Yeah, you do. And I think that the professional and charm element, I was talking about this today with a coworker, and we were it was a sensitive debate. We were all being very careful because you don't want to, but I was like, I know women are smarter than guys.
For sure.
So many ways. So, and the multitasking thing, I'm terrible. Most guys are. It's so natural to and so I'm not saying recruit. If you're a male, recruit yourself a female. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is a person that you trust. Yeah, I know that, you've got people in your camp that are that way, whether it's your best friend, like Lainey Wilson's road manager is her best friend.
I think that's awesome.
Someone you trust.
I think people have to do a better job of assessing where their own strengths lie. And if you realize you have a gap, and a lot of times it becomes family and it's friends, because when you're starting out, you're broke, right? You don't have the money to pay somebody to come in and manage the business for us and manage his social media and all of that stuff. So you go where people are bought into what your mission is and want to partner with you, even if they're not getting paid. But being real with yourself on where your strengths are and making sure that that's where you spend your time. I don't need him navigating our schedule spreadsheet and understanding what our price breakdowns are and what the band's schedule, what they can commit to, because it gets lost in the minutia of the details. I just need him go write music, go, what if we're still doing covers with the band, go practice with the band. That's not where you excel. That's the waste of your time. So, and we fully acknowledge not everybody is fortunate enough to have, a partnership like we have.
And we also understand our own dynamic. Not that I agree. To me and to our dogs, Ashley's the alpha. She's the boss. You know what I mean? But if you've got some 25-year-old dude in your band and he's like tough guy drummer, he's like, I'm in a band, your wife's gonna tell me what to, whatever it might be. When it comes to manage a band, I got to do that. Even if Ashley's behind pulling the strings, telling me you need to do this, because I'm not good at that either. I'm not good at managing people or
it's hard and
expectations.
Yeah.
Holding people accountable. So she might tell me what I need to do, but she knows the message has to come from me in order for things to, not because it can't come from her, but if there's a respect element to our band, they probably have to look towards me as the band leader. And then when it comes to the boss on booking, she's the boss.
And it just became easier.
I'm not going to step in her lane. So I'd say that's the second thing. Know your lanes. Know what you don't know and know your lanes. Whether you've got a band and this person manages social media and this person's that, well, don't step on them, man. That's theirs.
Right.
If you're going to let somebody own it, make sure they're the person you want to own it. And then if they own it, let them run it. Don't try to step in there and micromanage.
Yeah, for sure.
And those are definitely, you know, things we've learned. There's been some
through failing.
some verbal conflict.
Mhm. Well, I know you're
Right?
not alone. Like,
There-
yeah, I think
there's-
everybody's experienced that.
There's never been physical contact, but there's definitely been verbal contact of
You've heard.
I've had to learn, like, okay, I'm not a creator. And I don't,
Mhm.
you know, he'll ask me, well, what do you think of this song? Or I'm drumming this up. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you if I know if I like it or not, and that's about the extent of it. I
Right.
don't step into that world because that's not where I thrive. I run the business side. It became easier with all of the inquiries and everything flowing. If the drummer knew of a place for us to play or go chase it down, just feed it to me. I'll go chase it. You don't have to worry about it. And it kind of became a value add for the band to know, hey, I don't have to think about it, and I don't have to work for my schedule. I tell them what I'm available, and you know, obviously musicians play with other bands. Just tell me what you've got for availability and I'll run with it and I'll fill you up from there. And that just became easier. You know, then they don't have to think. They can do their music and they don't have to worry about the rest of it. So
Yeah,
but that
definitely.
doesn't work for everybody. Some people want more control than that. Some people want less. Some people want everybody to contribute. And we've learned over the last 5 years what
I used to run it all. I mean, it was my thing, and Ashley came and had fun and stuff. And eventually she started like, here's this spreadsheet that'll help you or whatever. And I was like, cool. I'll try that. You know, but she sent a proposal my way and said, listen, I'll do this for you. I'm not gonna do it for free.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, some of these gigs I'm not getting paid good. She's like, well, if you're hiring me, I'm getting paid. And the band guys I had, I was like, well, guys, what do you think of this? And they're like, yeah, we need somebody to, yeah, you know, and that's a part of, but it really does make things move the way they should.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes, it's important.
For sure. So, tell me about your tour you went on and like how you went about getting all that lined up, because I feel like I have yet to try to do a tour like that. And I feel like it is probably going to be next to impossible to get that many gigs in line and every weekend and whatever. So tell me about that and how you did it.
Okay.
Why don't you tell her about how you did that?
Right. I didn't.
I mean,
So
don't you need to drink, Collin? Ashley, how did you do that?
We had the idea, but it was like in Ashley, we've got stuff put together. So eventually it's just you get a contact, you send an email. When you've got the stuff put together in your pitch in your band, you know, so it's just a repeat email. So she was doing that. But Ashley also gets along well with people. And she networked and actually lined up with a couple of gals, one who runs Roosters, Cherie, and then Angela, who books Last Train to Juarez. And they were so amazing. They were like, oh, and they all just seemed to get along real well. They're like, here's this. And they're like, how many do you want? And we're like, I don't know. And she's like, how about 12? And we were like, oh shit, 12. Yeah, let's do that. So, and then we ended up getting hooked up with Cliff with DDP Entertainment and these other folks. Arizona's different, and we didn't get it fully until we went there. Yeah. So we had these, and we were excited. We had so many dates, you know, and we lined up Moab and all that. So Ashley had done that, but then they helped a lot with these fill-in dates. We get down there, and I think I had, and I'll get back to reason why it works as far as like how it worked for the actual like boots on the ground work that I had to do playing. But the bottom line there is you have these entertainment groups and they vet you. So I was like, oh man, Tuesday gig. Wow. Okay. That's a real help. You know, around here, maybe we'll get Thursday, Friday, Saturday, maybe Thursday, but Tuesday. Okay. Well, I'm playing at this place and it's a dart league and everybody's backs to me all night. I'm just grinding away for 3 hours playing whatever with little or no reward or recognition. But I was just so impressed that the people there, Cliff, the people that came to the gig, to listen. And I was like, damn, that's so nice. They must really think well, yes. They do value you. They value the musician so much. They value you so much. They come there to vet you. This is not being nice to you. I mean, it is being nice to you, but they come there to watch you.
They're trying you out. See how
they're trying you out. They gave you the tough night. They know Dart Night's tough.
Right.
They want to see how you handle yourself. They want to hear you. They want all the things. And then if that goes well, then they'll give you because they're wanting to foster a scene.
Right.
The scene has good talent, which means the bars trust them, which means they need to know what they have, Right. And so if I throw a tantrum and whine about the drinks or whatever, get another call.
Oh no.
Or if I, think that nobody's paying attention to me, pout, I'm not getting a call.
Right. One of the things we've always said from the beginning was, gigs come from gigs, and some of the
back to that
method to the madness here is as you look to expand outside of South Dakota, or even, for us that are part of the Midwest country music or outside of the Midwest, what we've found works for us is if you have the flexibility and capability to do smaller venue acoustic type stuff or duo type stuff. Sometimes venues don't want to go full in investment on the band, but they want to try you out as the musician. So we've added that as an element, and it's certain. I mean, he would prefer to play with his full band and jam and have fun that way. I have pushed him to, there's some venues I can't get you into because you're a full band. They don't have that budget. They want to try you as acoustic first. Where you do that, you put on a good show. They like you. They become a partner with you. Then it's not a big deal, right? And we had that happen in Arizona where it's like, hey, when can you get your band down here, right? So we've had to, you almost have to comfort your own band too, to say, hey, gigs come from gigs. I'm going to go do this with the intent that I'm going to do the work so that I can bring you behind me the next time. And that's worked for us. And I don't know if it works for everybody. It's not always comfortable for musicians to be the only one up there and do acoustic stuff, but it's a muscle, I think. I've made him exercise, and I think he does pretty good at it.
I think Ashley's, she pushed me hard. I mean, when I first started, I just played guitar, and then I was like, I'll try the singing thing way back when I started or whatever. But I always was like, well, I play with a band, and that's what I was doing. Yeah. And then Ashley's like, you ought to do some acoustic shows, especially the Sioux Falls area. The downtown, they're really interested in acoustic. They get nervous when you talk about a drummer that's gonna make too much noise or whatever, or they got budget constraints. And I was like, oh, that's not what I do. Like, I'm worried about how my message gets across with my music, and I don't want the wrong message. And at first I was resistant to it, but I think if you're person who plays guitar and sings, or maybe you sing and you've got someone who plays guitar, whatever, that I really learned at the Songwriter Festival in Deadwood last month. It's a muscle you should exercise. And I'm not just talking about in your living room. I'm saying it takes a lot of guts to load your stupid crap on the stage on Dart Night and put out your stupid t-shirts for however many bucks or whatever. And and get up there. Everybody looks at you like, and you get up there and you sing your songs. Yeah. You got to look them in the eye, get up there and sing your songs and do it well. And you're not going to do it good for a little while, and then you get to where you can. And then when you can come into, and I'm getting so off track, but if you're the people that
this is why every song when you listen to the album that drops tomorrow is over 4 minutes long.
They're
we
not
can get
over 4 minutes.
No radio play is because of
it's because no. what I'm really passionate about this is, and it really hit home for me as a person who plays and entertains. If you
Yeah.
go and exercise that muscle and treat every gig as if whoever's there is the most important, you get to that stage where it's like a pressure situation,
Mm-hmm.
and in your head, maybe the person next to you is like, oh God, I got nerves. And you're like, I'm not fucking nervous. Sorry, I cursed. I'll tell you why, because this ain't even close to dart night at Tom Ryan's and frickin' Chandler. You know what I mean? Like you've done that.
Right.
And you know you can. And you also know if people bought tickets to come see you, they're there because they know you're going to entertain. You could play a half-ass show and do all right.
Right.
But if you can go to a bar full of people who didn't come there to see you by yourself and win that bar over to where they're singing with you, or they're happy enough to buy a t-shirt,
Yep.
like you can do any show. You know, that's the polish that we see on people who are fantastic entertainers. That's that power, you know, and that's something every time I play a good show or a bad show, I'm like, this is building what I hope I can meet, you know, when I see other great people like Jamie Johnson or John
Right.
Fogerty,
Well, yeah.
whoever.
Truly, if you think about it, like a lot of them are very much, you know, they just do their own thing.
Yeah,
you know,
I feel very passionate about
Ride or Lainey Wilson or whatever, you know, it's very obvious that they do a lot of their own writing, and they're very much songwriters in addition to their, you know,
and they've paid those
multi-billion-dollar
dues.
career. But
yeah, they've paid those dues.
Cut you
Yep.
off now. Long-winded. The tips or the tricks going into that, how we kind of put that together. I mean, honestly, what I do from the business end is it's just a lot of internet time logged. If we pick a city, I'll just put in a Google search and what live music venues are there in Phoenix, Arizona, like as an example, in Google, and I'll look at the map of what came up. If they've got a website, I'll check it out. If they've got a Facebook page, I'll go see who they have for followers. And I'm looking for any kind of contact information I can have. So if they've got email, I'll send them our marketing packet. I'll call them. I'll ask to talk to who handles their booking. And anybody who's done it, whether it's the musician themselves or somebody they have doing it, for every yes you get, I'm hearing 50 no's, right? Like you just have to saturate it. And what ended up working out for us was I talked to enough people, I followed up with enough people, I got in front of somebody who actually listened to the music that I shared and liked it and said, hey, I think I want to connect you to this person, right? And so then that person got me into more doors, and it's just doing the work and having the conversations. There's no secret sauce. There's no management company I've found where I pay them a fee and they give me a contact list. It's just stuff I've hunted down and searched, and you just keep having the conversations. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of unrewarding work, but it's what we've kind of done to find these opportunities, and it's what we'll continue to do as we look to go other places.
Yeah. And to her point on that, I mean, we see it quite often where people are like, hey, let's share. Musicians, I think, sometimes get worried about their black book. Oh, I don't want to, you know, we don't worry about the black book. What we've just learned is that when you have those contacts, like some of them actually, like, you need their permission to share that info.
Right.
They don't want to be inundated. And if they also want your word to be kind of gold. So if you say, they're not going to say, give my number to this person. They're going to say, give me this person's info. And they will reach out. The people that are really quality at it, I think.
Right.
You know, we did have an owner who he had said, we got there, we played, and he said to Ashley, like, I really wish you hadn't shared my info with so-and-so, which they were a bigger band than us. We were like, shit, you should book them. But he was like, I don't want my info shared. And Ashley had been like, I don't.
Yeah.
So, and she felt so strongly, she came and said, hey, look,
I showed him the
I didn't share.
conversation because I was like, you know, so much of this is relationship building, right? And
Right.
it's like
Yeah, you gotta have
we always talk about, yeah, it's Collin Donley, it's his name, but it's we also view it, and a lot of the conversation we have is about the brand. What's the brand? Like, right, the brand is not just the name, it's what you get when he's on stage, it's what you get with the band, it's what you get when he's acoustic. And we put so much time, I put so much behind the scenes time that we wanted to make sure that there's that integrity in there. So I was like, I'll show you the conversation with this person. And he saw it and he was like, no, you're right. He didn't. I was like, I just want to, I mean, we operate on full transparency and integrity. I don't want you to think I did something that would piss you off. So that's a lot of it, is just the relationship building. If you're working on that, they're going to book you back, and they're going to.
And I think the further you get up with the various, you know, stages or whatever, you know, some of these folks that run these bigger venues that are getting inundated, it is a little bit of trusting where they are like, even just me, I try not to be a total, you know, schmuck about, hey, look, my new music, please listen. They're like, oh my God, dude, no. You know, like,
right.
Once in a while is okay. If I'm barking up their tree too much, they're a human being. They're like,
right.
Are you just using me or what? You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, people want relationships. They don't want a sales pitch.
That's right. Yeah, they don't want to be pitched.
Yep.
And I guess to sum all of that up, as far as the working this muscle or that muscle or whatever, I just think when I see stuff here and there of like of people's worries or whatever, my personal opinion I've always been good at is I put the blinders on and I work. I mean, I built fence through my high school years. And if you point me down the line, I will go until you say stop.
Yep.
That is what, just work. If you're like, oh, what social media thing can I do to make me viral? I'm like, no, man, just get out there and play. Just play.
Yep.
You know, don't waste your time with this other crap.
You got to be willing to put in the grind. That's for sure.
Yeah, and it's not even a grind. It's playing. It's fun.
True.
You know, anyway, I think social media can be just the thief of joy when it comes to worrying and comparing. I do it too.
It's really easy to, I mean, there's times where
you're like, damn it, I wish I could play cool shows.
Hold his head up. He'll see somebody he knows playing a cool show and wish that, you know, man, I want to be on that stage. I'm like, and there's people that are coming up that have only been doing this for a year that are looking at you saying, man, I'll one day I want to be Collin Donley, right? It's all about where you're at in your own.
Like, damn, Jessica's playing a sweet show over there. Freaking what? That's awesome. You know, I wish, you know, and I think, yes, I think we all feel that way, especially this time of year. This time of year is bad.
It's terrible.
Because you just got off a summer of really doing a lot, and now you're doing not a lot, and you're jonesing super bad for.
Yeah.
I mean,
enjoy going to bed before 3 a.m.
Yeah. But you know how
I know
we're
on a Friday night going do.
Yeah. What do I do now?
You know how that
like,
feels.
The first 2 weekends of break was nice because you're like, wow, I can do whatever I want on Saturday night. And I'm like, well, this sucks.
Yes. Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough, and it's even worse for us.
It's a real thing. That fall day depression.
Yeah. It's not the hop and party all year long.
It doesn't happen to me. I'm not drinking on a Thursday.
So can we ask questions back to you?
Yeah, of course.
We've been talking your ear off.
No, I have not said half the words that you have said. What's an aspiration you've got for your own music for the next year? Like,
what
you want to go somewhere new, or what are you thinking?
No, I really want to branch out, and we did this pretty well this past year. Our past year was I wanted to get another album out because it had been 2 full years since I had any new music. So that was number 1 priority. And then to really grow outside of South Dakota, or at least outside of the Black Hills, and get to the other side of the state, or get to like the 4 or 5 state region, you know, do more Wyoming, Nebraska, North Dakota, you know, really become known name in that region. And we did a lot of traveling. We pushed hard this summer. Tons of stuff in Nebraska. We really did a lot there. So that's been really cool. You know, now I feel like we have that reach. So now it's like, okay, you know, we really want to graduate out of the bar scene as far as, you know, full band stuff at least. And there's not a lot of, our side has a lot, but it doesn't, you know, a lot of it is just acoustic stuff and you know, and now I'm looking at that differently after our conversation just now, but you know, of course your goals are to play the bigger stages and the fairs and the festivals and the opening acts for whatever and the rodeos and so I think that's what we really want to focus on this year is getting out in that area and really kind of saturating the states around us. And then if we can build that up, you know, that gives us a foundation to go out way outside and start. So
it's interesting because I mean, I know we were all both on that call, and I know that this isn't just about Midwest CMOs, just more music industry specific stuff for us, but you know, the Midwest Country Music Organization is an opportunity to network outside South Dakota. And it was interesting, that initial meeting we had. I think South Dakota itself has a unique challenge because we're so split across the state. You know, you can say East River, West River, whatever you want, but it's like it's Sioux Falls and then it's Black Hills, and there's a lot of space in between. And there's really good venues. There's stuff in Pierre and everything. There's and Mitchell and those types of things. There's some good opportunity. But it's an interesting demographic we have just from the geography of our state. When I sit back and I look at what Iowa's done and what Minnesota's done and what Wisconsin's working on doing, it just, I don't know, maybe it's just my own perception. It feels so different for us because we're so split, right?
It's so different. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to do this kind of Q&A series, was because I'm like, you know, we went to the awards show and that was great. Everybody was wonderful. But I felt like, wow, we're kind of the outcast of the group, you know, like we're on the way edge. Nobody has a clue who we are. You know, there's not hardly any artists from South Dakota in the first place, let alone our side. And so it felt like everybody kind of had their niche and their groups and they all had these relationships already. And we were like, hey, like, I'm Jessica. Nice to meet you, you know? So I was like, man, I really would like to change that for this coming show and the jam and whatever, you know, and really try to build some of that relationship back up. And then that's the whole point of the CMOs, right? Is to support each other and help, you know, grow as artists. So that was my other reason of wanting to do something like this.
And I think some of it too, for me, I guess from the business side, I look at South Dakota and it is a very rural state, and it's a small, while there's gigs to be had, it's also, there's not an overwhelming abundance, right? And so we've kind of all come up in the South Dakota scene where you start to get a little bit protective because it's hard to get outside of that. And when you start to explore going outside of it, there's a travel commitment, and that's time and that's money. And sometimes it doesn't pencil to go that far. Just like I think some of the Midwest CMO people are realizing to come to South Dakota from far eastern Iowa is expensive. You have a lot to travel. And then if you do eastern South Dakota and want to commit to going western, there's even more. And so you get protective of that, right? Because that's your bread and butter, and that's how you're paying your bills so that you can go do stuff.
I think though, for me, this is my own personal feeling. I don't. I mean,
no, I think that's part of what we've seen just in the South Dakota scene of I think there's some protective nature of it. And how do you get people to realize, let's just build relationships, right? Like it goes back to you as a band person or a music industry professional with a venue, right? They want that relationship.
I think too, I mean, people get played out sometimes. I mean, not sometimes, quite often I feel played out. And and I come from Wyoming, where like it's a town, nothing. You know, like half an hour Buffalo, that's the closest town. You know what I mean? So to me, and then we spent a good amount of time in Austin, And I was like, in Austin, there's such a old boy. Some of those cats have been there so long, you know.
But
And
they play every Tuesday.
they play everywhere, yes.
White
But you
Diamond
get there and you
Group.
start here, and it doesn't take a year, 2 years, 3 years. It takes 10.
Yep.
You know. And when we got up here to Sioux Falls, I didn't really expect much. I had no expectations. In fact, I wasn't sure I was going to play music, but then I discovered, okay, this place is East River. I don't know about, and see, I'm saying East River. I only learned this
Recently.
West River, East River is peppered with little farm towns. There is one every 10 miles.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, every little place got a hometown bar, and they're hiring a band for what I thought was pretty good money at the time, you know?
Right.
And down there, and then you get 2 years in and you're getting a call to go open for whoever, and I'm going, we would have never got a call like this down in Austin. I'm 10 years back from getting this call, you know. So I think there is opportunity, and I personally don't feel like worry competition, whatever. I mean, the people that are nice to you, they do it because they are.
Right.
You know, they don't want anything back. And that's how I feel. If I fangirl on somebody's music and I follow your music like I follow, it's because I like it.
Right.
It's got nothing to do with what I want, because I don't care.
Yeah. And
Yep.
and that's
'Cause I
the
know-
point though, was like I think that's some of what the hang up can be in
Yeah.
South Dakota specifically with
We
the
know
music
work's
industry.
work.
Mhm.
Just put in the work, like who you like.
And yeah, we
Yeah.
have to go out and find our audience, because we're not in a
Yeah.
big city where you're guaranteed an audience no matter what. You know, like in, you know, downtown Nashville, they're guaranteed an audience no matter what they're doing. You know, they don't have to try to sit there and pull people in and keep them in there, because they just go in, do their thing, and that's it. So so yeah, it makes it a little tougher for us, but us Midwesterners, we've got it in us to.
Well, and I think the piece to that though, I think sometimes it's easy to get lost in the minutia of it and think oh God, nobody cares about what I'm kicking out. But in the Midwest, the followers you have are genuine followers of your music because they're showing up. They know where you're from. They know your story. It's not just, oh, we're going to Nashville because it's Nashville and it's live music and we don't care who's on the stage. So
Well, I think there's a whole trick to that too, probably.
yeah, I think I can't speak to Nashville. I've never been. I've literally
You
never been
haven't?
to Nashville. No, it's on my list.
Oh my
Maybe.
gosh. You gotta go. You gotta go.
All the Austin people
go.
are going to be mad at us for going.
Yeah, we lived in Austin, Texas for 2
absolutely have
years,
to
and I feel like their blues Texas country mentality would frown upon loyalty to Nashville.
Yeah.
Sorry for anybody that watches this that's from Austin.
Sorry, Austin, Texas people. We're not picking sides. We're just wherever we are.
Yeah.
Did you hear the new Charlie Crockett song? It just came out today, actually.
No.
Oh yeah,
Mr. Nashville.
Mr. Nashville. You have to listen to it.
Okay. I will.
This is not a
that
paid
very-
promotional. We're not getting paid for Charlie Crockett. We genuinely like the song. You gotta listen to it.
You're not making a commission off of that third of a penny stream every time it plays.
I don't think he needs any help at this stage in the game.
No, it's genuinely a very satirical song. It's worth a listen. So
That's awesome. That's really awesome. So what's your plan for the winter? Are you gonna stick around home? You gonna travel a little bit more?
We have made a new plan. Yep.
we've got some plans. Yeah, we're probably start to see more, not to plug people, follow social media, but we'll probably start announcing some stuff after the first of the year, what 2025 is going to look like. So yeah,
we're heading.
Got some details to hash out yet. You're not anything. And we'll
I'll leave this to you. I got a piece.
You got focus right now is getting bye. Yeah. Such an outlaw.
Are you guys moving?
No. No, maybe. No, I don't know. I don't know what we're exploring all opportunities. A lot of it will be a lot more travel. Still pushing the acoustic stuff so we can bring the band behind it. We do have a repeat trip back to Arizona. It won't be 30 days again, but trying to find ways to push, little trips here and there. Who is that? Can you see? That's Asa on the couch. Little trips here and there, and then start to figure out how you can make it pencil to bring the band behind you. So
absolutely. Yeah, that is the tough part. We have been talking about, what can we afford and what we can't, and as much as we would love to hire a manager or get in with a, some kind of entertainment company, like just to make it worthwhile for everybody, honestly, is really tough.
we had well, I don't know if Collin was on that call or not. I had a call with a booking agent I think he was based out of Minnesota somewhere, and he had worked for a pretty large booking company that ran out of Nashville, and he left them to go start on his own. And we had explored, was it worth having somebody do this for us? And one of the things that he kind of talked to us about was understanding what your burn rate is, what it actually costs you to travel, and weighing the outcome that you think you'll get out of an opportunity versus that burn rate, and acknowledging that. And this is, I think, for us, where strategically some of the acoustic stuff comes into play, why we've integrated that into the music, is because that's income that stays within the business, right? You're not paying a band, your expenses are a little bit more limited. Oh, there's Itzy.
Newt, come here. Come here. Oh, geez.
Oh, it's mad.
Ouch.
Oh, God, you scared me. Oh, he's red and white.
Look, there's another dog in there. Bite him.
Doesn't care. What are you doing?
Oh, that's funny. I know, you're wiggle worm central.
And being able to take that, like for us from a business standpoint, not to get into numbers, but being able to take that and say, okay, this is money we'll invest into the music, so that when an opportunity comes up to take the band, we realize we're not going to make anything, and we may even have to pay to play, but it's an investment from the acoustic side that can feed the full band coming, because that's the ultimate mission, right? And so it's finding out what that burn rate is and understanding where your price point needs to be. And for you locally, being able to lean into the venues that have partnered with you up to this point and say, look, I know I'm worth X, and incrementally climbing up what you can with your pricing locally, because they know your music, they're loyal to you, and then using that to fund the stuff that you go further with where they don't know you. It's worked for us. I don't know if it works for everybody. I don't know if that's a tip or trick that other people do. But it's something that we've just learned to integrate. We can take what we get from acoustic and allow it to feed the band to go outside of the state. So
yeah, absolutely.
In hopes that you're getting in front of the right people.
Because that's the point, right? The point is not to go out and play fishing in the dark acoustically to whoever. The point is to your band. That's your ultimate message. And I think the other thing is you gotta put in the time, really polish your craft to the point where you go in there and you tear that place down. You don't always do that. You do not always do that. Sometimes you're not on, but you better go in there thinking you're gonna.
Right.
And then when you do that and they tell you to come back, gigs come from gigs.
That's right.
And I mean, and that's not to discredit people that want to go out and have the ability to hire a booking agent or hire a manager. That, I think that's great if that works for you, if that feeds your mission. What's worked for us is to just always have a camp around you that's bought in and wants to see the success and doesn't just have money in the game and is willing to maybe not get paid for a period of time to get you there. And whether that's, you know, divide and conquer with your own band or bring in a best friend or a sibling or a parent, I think having people around you that you trust as you navigate growing and learning which business decisions to make and which you're going to take a bath on and sometimes you're going to win is just part of it. So
yeah, absolutely. So we can cut this part out of the video if you want to, but like as far as paying your band members, like do you guys split it evenly? Do you do a base pay? Do you pay per, you know, based on what the gig pays?
We've talked about that a lot.
Yeah, so how we started
talked about
off
that lately, too.
was we had, you know, we've always had very transparent conversations prior to me coming in
Because I ran it like a band.
to the business. It was an even split. Whatever we got, everybody
split.
got, right? So if
Yep.
3 people were playing, it was split 3 ways. If 4 people were playing, it was split 4 ways. When it finally got to the point where there needed to be a level of detail on the schedule and navigating the conversations with the venues and then adding in the marketing element, and now you have social media and all of this stuff. That's when him and I kind of had a conversation. Maybe this gets a little bit more personal of what are we doing with it? Because if you're telling me, you know, at the time we were 37, 38, I got to spend every weekend in a bar from, you know, 9 to 1 a.m. listening to you play all of the covers that I've heard you play 1,000 times, and we're just going to stay in South Dakota, I'm out. I'm not interested. But if you tell me you want to write more original music and you want to look at the business and you want to chase this as far as it goes, not knowing what that means, right? Like no illusion here that we're going to be selling out stadiums, but chase it as far as you want to go with it. I'm in. But then if I'm in, there's elements of this you need to relinquish control, and we have to have trust that we're all driving towards the same mission. And that comes with a price, right? Like we did some research on what booking agents charge, what management agents charge, and there's a percentage that stays. And we communicated this to the band at the time. There's a percentage that's going to stay with Collin Donley Music LLC. And that's what I'm taking off the top for navigating all of this for you guys. And we keep that as an investment. We use that for PA upgrades and different stuff like that. And then what was left was split equally through the band. We've talked about into the new year, does that need to change? You know, we've had conversations with other musicians, you know, what do you guys do? There certainly, if you go out and look at podcasts and look at people coming out of Nashville, you're at a contract rate. You're maybe getting $200 a gig to come be the drummer. And I think we're there, you know, where we need to start considering, does that make more sense for the business? So that going back to what I said earlier, if you have an opportunity to go play, you've built that fund into the business. You know you're going to lose money on it, but you've invested in that exact opportunity. And I think that's probably some of the changes that are coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, for us. I mean, and I really had I had a personal problem with that. I'm sure you do too, as a person running a band.
Yeah.
And I started my band splitting just everything even. And I ran the best you can probably have sort of a scenario. It was a trio. Got a drummer, bass player, and me singing and playing. That's as skinny as you can cut it.
It is.
You know, and still having a whole band.
Right.
But it was tough learning the hard way, just those business lessons about, well, if so-and-so is pushing the business, it gets to a certain point, or so-and-so's running sound, maybe they get more or whatever. But then eventually you probably get to a spot where you're running the band. And I talked at length with my buddy Paul in Austin, which he, by the way, was out with Charlie Crockett all winter. And Jimmy Vaughn, he guitar tech for, and he drives. At any rate, he was like, it's a flat rate and it's a per diem.
Mm-hmm.
Goes up. There are certain things I'm willing to do a little less on, because he's a great guitar player. I thought,
Mhm.
shit, it'd be fun to be in a band with Paul, you know.
Yeah.
But he was like, if you got a nice fan, maybe I'd take a little less, but otherwise I gotta get $300 a show plus per diem is $50. And I was like, dang, 350, that's not too bad. I mean, a lot of these shows we're splitting it and each guy's walking away with $600.
Yep.
But guess who's pulling the trailer around and
Mm-hmm.
buying the PA and
Yep.
all these things? And gosh, I'm all good because we're working, but like, if I want to make this a full-time gig, I probably can't do that unless I start thinking like a business person. And apparently I can hire dudes down in Texas for $300 a show.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I had a job, and I'll never forget, which really great mentor, manager. I managed a hospital, a pet hospital, and he told me, I did it for 7 years, and then we split a bonus 3 ways, and it was a management bonus, myself and these other partners. But and again, getting long-winded, but I said, I think I should be earning X. And he was like, well, it's not on the payroll for you to do that. But I will tell you, your bonus pool, we pay that out. However you want to split that, that's fine. And I was like, oh, but I can't. I'm not going to ask those other people to take a pay cut. He said, okay, I understand that. That's a really nice guy. You're a nice guy. He said, as a nice guy, let me ask you a question. 100%. Split 3 ways is 33%. I said, yep. He said, are they doing 66% of the management? And I was like, oh shit. Like he's like, if you want to be a nice guy, be a nice guy and be at peace with it. But you have all these problems and you keep asking me and you want to earn more money. The money's on the table. So you can keep being a nice guy and just let it go. Or you can ask and take what you feel like might be the right thing. And you might be surprised with the answer you get. And I really struggled. And when I finally did say, hey, here's what I think. This is so hard. What if we, and they were like, yes. They were both like, you do like so much more of the management crap that we get bonused on, and we already do fine for ourselves. Take it. And I was like, God, if I had never asked, if I had never just laid it out, I'd be sitting there wishing I got more money.
Yep.
And that's us as business owners. If we don't just say, hey, you tell that guy who has earned $200 a gig for every gig he's ever had, he comes to your band and you tell him, I'll pay you split 3 ways. So you're getting $600 a gig. He's like, hell yeah, I love this band for a while. But meanwhile, you're scrapping. Or you tell him, hey, I pay $200 a gig. And you got all this stuff. You can make your show better. The show is better. It kicks ass. He's like, I love this band because I'm getting paid $200, which is my rate. And we have these huge, great shows. It's all right here.
Yep.
So, sorry.
I think it's, and I
No,
know
that's
you
great.
had asked, like, we can cut this part out. I don't think you need to. I think part of the problem is like people are always so afraid to talk money and so afraid to talk about what's really behind the business. And I think we all learn more if we would just talk about it a little bit more openly. I know bands don't always want to share what they're getting paid, but to just understand the nuances that work in terms of how you recoup some of that. If you're carrying the management piece and it's your name, and like it or not, there's just some cost that goes to that, right? And if it's you start to get into the minutia of songwriter credits and how do you split that and all of that, like that's a whole nother 2 hours of Q&A, right? But if if it's your drive and it's your mission, there's some ownership that comes with that. And there's cost that comes with that you don't even fully realize over 4 or 5, 6 years we've been doing this. But you're bought into it, and it doesn't matter at the end of the day, as long as you continue to drive and make those right decisions. If you feel like, hey, this is what the value is that I bring because it's my, my name, my songwriting, my business manager, my whatever, this is my ask. It just have the conversation. It's not easy. It's not always fun. We've learned along the way. I mean, we obviously started in one realm with one band, and we've turned that over, and there's changes that'll come in 2025, but it's believing in what you're building in your brand and your mission. The right people, you might go through some people before you get to the right ones, but you'll find them. And that's the biggest thing, I think, is staying true to what it was that got you into this in the first place and what keeps you into it.
And I think that's running a business.
Yeah.
That's not running a band. That's not making music.
Right.
That's running a business.
Right.
And that's where so many of us get crossed up. And to close all that up, I'm not saying be an asshole, take all the money. What I'm saying is this is a business. You can't lose and still have a business.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, you still have to bring money into
People
it.
I know, we've known that we've worked for, you run your business with your hair business. Like, there's just certain stuff you got to do.
Right.
And it's not fun, but you got to do it.
And I guess maybe a little bit of history on what we did when we finally started it and we LLC'd it, and we said, okay, we have to start viewing this as its own entity. And
It's her telling me it has to be that way. I had no, I wasn't thinking that way. I learned a lot from her.
We were in the conversation because I was talking to you, talking at you. Of like, okay, so it has to have its own account, right? Like just the small, minute things, it has to have its own account. And that account has to cover your expenses. So if you want a new guitar, or you need a microphone, or you need a new PA, or you need a new board, it's got to be here, right? And we put personal money behind that to start it.
Yep.
And from there, it was figuring out how gigs pencil, and you're paying your band and all of that. And it's been some tough conversations to get to the point where it has to feed, in order for it to be a business, it has to feed itself. It doesn't have to make money. We're not sitting here saying, that's the ultimate dream, right? Is you can fund your lifestyle on it. But the beginning is it has to pencil and it has to cover itself. And we've successfully navigated that. And aspiration is we'd like to see, we both have full-time careers. I have to have that outlet. I'm so type A. I'd love for the opportunity be for him to walk away from his full-time job and just focus on music. And maybe that's the aspiration in front of us right now. And we'll see. I think we do take it a year at a time. We take it a gig at a time. One of the things that we've always established with our band is if an opportunity comes, we're not going to force our band into anything. It's got to work for your guys' schedule, and we're transparent in the beginning what the pay is going to be. And they say yes or no, right? That's the commitment. If you're going to do it, you got to do it with people that you enjoy doing it with, and everybody's got to be in.
Right.
And that's just what's worked for us. Did you just drink my wine?
You can't handle wine.
Well, not after bourbon.
Good.
Ugh, gross.
Liquor, is it liquor before beer? You're in the clear.
Beer before wine.
You're not gonna feel fine.
I don't know.
There's a song in there somewhere, isn't that what?
Absolutely. That is your next hook.
Yeah, thinking of it like a business. I mean, I just started it hoping to play some blues covers, and then I got into and then Ashley was like, "You're not buying any more guitar. You're gonna have to fund this yourself." And she thought she was teaching me a lesson. she was like, we'll set up a checking account for you. It's guilt free. You want to use that money to buy a guitar? You can.
I guess, yeah, that is how it started.
And I was like,
that was his
that's
fun.
fine.
That was his fun account. Was
right.
whatever you bring in playing,
You
put it
can
in this
buy a
account.
guitar because she thought there's not going to be shit in there and you won't be able to buy guitars. Well, I get through a summer and she's noticing like, well, there's a couple grand in here. What are you doing with that? And I'm like, well, I'm buying a sweet guitar. That's the deal. And then pretty soon she was like, this is a business. All right. And then further along, I'm going to manage the business. Pretty soon, no more sweet guitars. People aren't having fun. People are worrying about meeting ends and such. And here we are. It's not fun guitars, people. It's not.
To counter that, if anybody follows on social media, there's a pretty lengthy video series where I bought a guitar for you finishing this album and surprised you with it, and you cried a little. And
I did watch that. Yes.
It's very touching thing to do. But she also did make me chug a Smirnoff Ice, so.
Which I think I don't know if that's a Midwestern thing. I learned it from you, but I really think maybe this is where we could be an alliance. I'm thinking we show up to the Midwest Country Music Org if you're coming to the awards ceremony this year, and we just ice a ton of people. And that can become like the South Dakota. Now it's a South Dakota thing, and we're gonna.
Do you know what icing is? Being iced? You just got iced.
Like are you saying like just you gotta chug one of those ice?
Yeah.
Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. She hadn't heard of it. I explained it to her and then suddenly I'm getting iced. Like, and I'm just out of nowhere. And on principle, I will, but I'm kind of like, what the hell, man? I didn't say let's start this up.
So he had told me about it.
She's really good at it.
This is way off topic. This is probably the part that you cut out.
If you have a person who knows you really well and knows your habits, she's like, okay, I had been iced 3 times already.
Can I tell
that weekend? And she iced me again at 3 a.m. We got done playing in Wisconsin. We're loaded up. We're in the van. It's sweaty hot. It's a rough evening. Finally got done with loadout. She goes, take the dogs out. So I take them out and I crawl into the van and crawl up to the bed and like lay my head down. And it was like, tink. I'm like, it's 3 a.m. I don't need to chug this Smirnoff Ice. I got heartburn. And then the next morning, Sunday morning, get home, it's a Smirnoff Ice in the shower. Anyway.
That one particular Smirnoff, I struggled because he's very like, he's a dude, right? He has this typical, he has to do everything in the exact same order every day. And if you throw that off, it ruins his day. So I know what his steps are. And I know what his steps are when we load in. And he's got his white backpack that's all of his cables and all of that. So I put it in there before we left. So we were going to Wisconsin for a gig to Prairie du Chien. And I had put the bottle in there. He's going to be loading in and he'll open that right when he's about to go, up to sound check, and he'll have to chug it. And then I started to think, well, is that the message I want to send in front of the band and the people? And then I started to think, well, what if it breaks open and then it busts all over his cables, and I'm going to catch hell for that. And I know what those cables cost, so I don't want to replace them. So then I thought, well, I'll put it in his guitar case. And then I thought, well, if it breaks in there, it's going to get all over this guitar, and I'm never going to hear the end of that. So where can I put this thing? So obviously we stay in our Sprinter camper van when we go long distance. So I put it under his pillow on his side of the bed. But this is like the methodical shit you go through when you're with somebody that you know enough about them to be like, okay, I'm going to put it here. Nope, I can't do that because that costs money. And I'm going to put it here. So.
Oh, that's the methodical shit you go through.
Well,
it's really rough.
All right.
Well, yes, if you start doing that with Brandon, it's not going to be good because he knows what you're doing.
I would recommend it.
I know.
They take advantage of that. Unless you're really good at it. And then in his case, he's going to be in bad shape.
I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to take some lessons from Ashley here.
We'll connect after. We'll connect after.
But we're not so self-centered that we need to talk a lot. Jessica, what
Do
are
we
you
need
doing
to
this
wrap
year?
this up?
No, you're good. You're good.
What are you
Yeah.
doing this year?
What am I doing this year?
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, this year's almost over. What are you talking
And
about?
how does your
This coming
band
year?
work?
How does my band work?
Yes. Tell us all. We've been talking.
So we've got lead guitar, and he also plays steel. So he goes back and forth, and he plays dobro. So he like switches all the time.
He's the guy with the vests. He's always sharp dressed.
Yeah. Yep. The one with the hair.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always
Nice
like,
set of hair on that
you
guy.
know, like you, because you have better hair than me. But yeah, so we've just been doing a lot of gigs together and trying to do the majority of the music full band, and really working on those. So I kind of did the same thing you did with the going to the studio and tracking and everything. But I went down to Nashville and did it and used studio musicians. So then I brought that home. I'd love to
hear about that, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, I can tell you about it.
We'll
then I brought it home and I was like, here you go. Like, here's a whole bunch, 10 new songs for you guys to woodshed, because now you got to try to, recreate it, I guess. And so they're still working on it. We're just kind of picking up a song or two at a time, we're trying to slowly transition into more and more originals, because like we were saying, that's the goal, right? So right now our show is probably 60-40 for the most part. If we have like a 4-hour gig, we got to come up with, I don't have 2 full hours worth of music or 3 full hours worth of originals. So we end up throwing a lot of covers in, of course, but that keeps the crowd engaged. You do a couple covers, then you do an original or 2, and then you do a couple more covers, and keeps them wanting to stick around. But yeah, so we were just talking about, what our next 2 songs. We're gonna just hit hardcore here, and now that it's winter time, have a little more time to get with it and be working on those.
How'd you get to that decision in terms of wanting to go to Nashville and do, hired guns essentially versus using the band?
So the first time, so this is going to be, I'm going to get long-winded now. It's my turn. But so Brandon's family and my family have been close. They were close before I even knew Brandon, really. And so my parents grew up with them, and his cousin is the lead guitar player for Sawyer Brown. So he's always been my connection for, for down in Nashville and what to do and how to do it and whatever. So I really didn't do music consistently until probably about 5 years ago. And I was like, what, all of a sudden out of nowhere, I was like, what, I want to do an album. And so I was talking to him about it, and he goes, honestly, anybody can come down and cut an album. You don't have to have a label or a record dealer or anybody behind you. You just come and do it. And yeah, exactly. Songs. And so then he was doing some producing of his own, and I said, well, would you do it for me? And he goes, yeah, of course. So I went, and this was before I even had a band. So at that point, I didn't have a choice but to use musicians down there.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I did. Not that my band isn't great, because they are fantastic, but there's just something about being able to present to a venue or whoever, being like, here's my album. This is, the array of musicians that are on here. This is the like the the caliber of what I've got. And then they go, oh, she's serious, like, this isn't just another Joe Blow trying to, do whatever. So yeah, the first time I never intended on not using a band, because I didn't have one. So yeah. So I went down, and he, of course, being the musician in the world that he's in had a plethora of connections. So when I got there, I had no idea who would even be playing on it. And he goes, well, you can do it a couple of ways. You can come down for the whole week. We'll do your vocals. You can go to the studio sessions, and whatever. Or you can just come down, do the vocals and take off, and we'll take care of the rest. And I was like, no, I kind of want to be there for the whole thing. And so we get there, and I was like, so like, who did you get lined up? Not that I was going to have any idea who these people were, probably. And he goes, well, I got one of the best piano players, and his normal gig is on the road with Garth Brooks. And I was like, what? What did you say? Yeah. And then he's like, yeah. And then so-and-so, he's played on albums for like Tim McGraw, and he played in Steve Miller Band for a while, and he did this and did that. And I was like, holy shit, I got to go in the room with these guys and be like, here's my song, little old me from South Dakota. Like,
yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, this is going to be intimidating. So we go, and then he played guitar on it for me, of course, because that's what he does. So I had all these great musicians, and they were so cool. When they aren't on the road, that's what they do. That's how they make their extra money to pad their winter, Yeah. Because even though they're at a level where they're making thousands of dollars instead of hundreds, like we are, they're still in a position where they got to come up with some of their income for, their living expenses too. So yeah, you just call them up and be like, hey, I got some studio work for you, and here you go. Yeah. So, all I did was write. So I wrote all the lyrics, and then I did the basic like 3-chord progression melody, like nothing fancy, nothing whatever. And so then I took it down there, and we kind of went through it, just Shane and I, the lead guitar guy, and did a little tweaking here and there, so it wasn't so like Mary Had a Little Lamb style, and more like, it had a little bit more depth to it, because this is also the very first time that I've done any writing. And so I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is just what I got, so help me out. And then he does some writing with some other bigger writers too. And he's like, well, we've had some songs that we've either, never done anything with, or they just, haven't found the right person yet. So if you want to go through those and pick out a couple to use, go for it. So I was like, sweet. So so we did that, and then we got to the day of the tracking, and they literally met everybody for the first time, and some of them knew each other, some of them didn't, and everybody goes in their separate room, and they literally play my little like phone recording that I sent with my basic 3-chord progression, and they're like, this is a song we're doing today. These guys have never heard it a day in their life, and they listen to it maybe once or twice, maybe not even a full second time.
Yeah.
And
they tell you one
they
and
go
done.
in,
If
and
you get 2, you're begging.
Yeah. And it was just, that is where like the magic of the Nashville record comes from, because there's nothing like it. I mean, you lay this out, and they go and they put their riffs in, and they come up with their whatevers and their solos, and you're like, holy shit. And an hour later, this is like radio ready. And nobody, I didn't have it written like that. It's like it just comes to life. And that was the really cool part about it. Because these guys, they've never heard it. They're just going, here you go, take a listen, get an idea, go in there, go in your room, and just play it out.
I think that's one of the exciting things about just the music industry, is if you can get your head wrapped around finding opportunity like that to grow as a musician yourself, right? Maybe you go experience that, and you're like, you know what, that approach just isn't for me, but you tried it and you did it, right? And
how was your second go around? Was it like your first? Because it sounds like your first one was magical. Everything came together right.
It was.
How was
so
this album?
Yeah, when I was like, all right, I'm gonna put another album out, and everybody was, and by this time I have the band now, so everybody was like, oh, you're gonna, take your band, and I was like, you know what, I don't think so. I don't think I
How'd they
can.
take that?
They were good about it. They really were. I was like, you guys, I unintentionally set the bar so high when I did that with, top of the line musicians. It's like, how do I, if I don't do that again, I'm not probably going to feel as good about it. Like, definitely no offense to the musicians, but like, I have to, I've got to do that. And they were all cool with that. And,
Same crew, different
yeah.
crew, obviously.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. So, but they are the same ones I've started with since the beginning. So
no, I meant the session musicians,
right.
were different crew.
Different. Yeah. Yep. They were all different this time. I had the same drummer. He's actually the guy that owns the studio, and he drummed for Luke Combs on his albums, and then he has done some tracking for Jelly Roll and some stuff like that. So,
and I think that, honestly, not to interject here real quick, I think that's the difference, like being in the Midwest, is like we're so conditioned that the musicians you're playing with every day in the bars or the venues are the same musicians you should be writing the music with. And when you think about Nashville, and even to some degree Austin, Texas, in the more the blues space, that's not necessarily the case. And if you look at the national guys, the people they're on tour with aren't necessarily the ones that wrote the music. And navigating some of that and growing into some of that has been, I think, what we're up against in the next couple of years. So, but anyway, continue. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fine. So, yeah, I had a whole different crew of people, but I was in the same studio with the same producer guy, and so I was like, all right, here we go, and it's very cool, and it's so inspiring to go in there and see this magic happen and go, oh my gosh, like we really just did that. I just did that. And you just come back home going, you're just all full and ready to go, because you just experienced this whole different world of music down there, and the setting that you're in, and it just gives you this fire to start again. So
do you think have you ever considered a move to Nashville?
We've talked about it a little bit. I don't know that I could ever fully commit. Like a lot of like Brandon's family did the 6 month here, 6 month there thing. When they hadn't reached that kind of level of music yet. But I could see myself doing like a snowbird kind of situation. But man, it would be hard. It would be tough to leave the ranch. I think if I would have grown up in town or in a city, like whatever. But we have our family roots here. I don't know that I could leave that for good.
Yeah.
But maybe, the right opportunity would definitely have to come for that to happen. So yeah, moral of that story is, if you ever have the opportunity, even if you go down and just cut one song, you don't have to do a whole album. It's whatever you feel comfortable doing, but it was worth every penny. And to be able to go, like obviously radio play is tough, if little to nothing, if you don't have a big name behind you, but just being able to put my song up against anybody else's, Lainey Wilson's, Miranda Lambert's, and go, it's equally as, the quality is equal. Like, people are they recognize that. So that's cool. And I'm not saying you can't get that anywhere else, but there is something to be said for doing a Nashville record.
It's like we talked about, you have to know when your lane, you don't know what you don't know, So I think there are folks who are really proud and should be proud of what they've done and making their own records, via, their home studio. But like me personally, like, if it's got knobs, I'm there,
Yep.
knobs and strings, but I have no passion for learning and trying to mix my own whatever, So when you've got access to someone who's got that kind of a skill, utilize it. Because at the end of the day, are you trying to make a good record, or are you just trying to feel like you did it yourself or whatever, you know?
Right,
And for me, everybody is going to be different. So to answer that question would lead you where you want to go. But for me, I think I'd drive myself nuts. I'd be unhappy with anything I did.
Yep.
You know?
Oh,
Yeah,
I'll be real. You can
go-
barely
go
post
play.
a video on Instagram successfully. So
Yeah.
And
But
it's hard to listen to your own work back or even let anybody see it, because it's intimidating, and it's, you know, very like, oh my gosh, you know, very transparent, and you know, I'm still learning, you know, with my writing, like, you know, it's hard to show other people, you know, but
I think
yeah,
it all
it
comes
was,
down to vulnerability. How vulnerable are you
that's
willing to
what I was
be
looking
because you
for.
want to
Yeah.
grow, right?
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
I personally have learned to just clock in and out. And I think the studio taught me that a lot. The first time you ever heard your voice
Uh-huh.
recorded,
Yep.
you were like, oh geez, shut it up. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
it's
Yep.
out of body. They bounce it down. And you're like, okay, let's hear that. And you're like, oh shit, this is awful. You know,
Yeah.
like, because you're just not used to your voice, you know.
Right.
You guys use that studio magic, make it awesome.
Right.
Not that. And they're, you know, one thing that I love about Mark Dom is he was like, that's you.
Mm-hmm.
The only way that gets better is if
You get better.
I am recording that. I'm recording you. There's
Yep.
no magic.
Yep.
And, you know, and you learn so much, whether it's
Yep.
about how you say your T's, you know, what's
Yeah.
hard?
Yep.
Back.
Yep.
How Midwestern you want to be back. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
all of it, all that stuff's important to me, where I'm
It
like,
is. And that
I
is
said
actually,
back so shitty in that one, kill that take and let's, you know, do it again, you know?
yep.
And
That
I'm
was
sitting
kind of
there
a big
listening because obviously, I mean, we don't go anywhere without each other, which is a whole nother therapy session. I'm listening to it going, it all sounds the same. I don't
Yep.
hear
Right.
it right. Where I'm like,
Right.
what'd you do? You
Yep.
didn't do anything different, but you love that one better. Okay, we'll go with take 512.
Did you
right?
go through that with like
Oh
comping
yeah.
vocals and be like,
Yep.
oh my God, I'm terrible.
Right. Oh yeah. It was terrible. And even now, like if I hear, you know, if someone videoed something and posted on Facebook, or if we did a live or something, and then Brandon will be sitting next to me like scrolling, and it'll come up and it's on full volume, of course, and I'm like, no, like shut it off, you know, scroll past it. I don't want to listen to that. But yeah, it's very weird. Very weird.
But it helps
But
you learn.
Not musically inclined at all. I'm entirely that way. Like whatever video you post, I will never listen to it because I can't stand the sound of my own voice. So
Yep.
just know that this is a one and done for me.
But that's like
whatever you do from here is completely your creative control.
we talked about like the being able to put on a show just yourself with, you know, no band and that's a
Yep.
muscle you got it's another muscle, and you have to learn to love and accept what your sound is, you know, and you will work on it and tweak it and try to get it to what's
Yep.
up there. But ultimately, like that's also a thing. I think it's super helpful because,
Yeah.
you know, you can hear the cracks in your own performance.
Oh
And
yeah.
I listen to other people's stuff and I'm like, I bet they can't hear any cracks, but they do for sure.
Yep.
You know?
Absolutely. On that note, do you use in-ears?
Yeah, I just started on ears this year. You?
Yeah, we do too. Brandon is 100% anti live wedge on stage.
Yeah,
and
being a drummer.
and I'm like, I get it, but man, it has taken me a lot to learn to love in-ears, because it's kind of like talking with your ears plugged like this, you know, like it's a whole different hearing yourself in your head kind of thing, and it's tough. And sometimes I still do like take one out, which is not good for your hearing, but sometimes I feel like there's this like weird disconnect. I'm not in it, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, do you guys use a talkback mic?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Depends
Yeah,
on what was going on.
I mean, the first time I got a guy in the band and we were running sound and he's like, we ran monitors, but I was like, man, I've never played anywhere. I mean, when I played guitar in bands, the sound guy gives you what he gives you. If you're playing in Denver at the Gothic and you say, hey, gee, could I have a little more? He's like, you ain't getting, you get what you get, but then as a singer, but playing in the bands that I had played in singing, I was like, well, I haven't even run monitors. I can hear what's coming out the front. I'm fine.
Yeah.
So I've never been picky, and I've always really tried to push myself to not be picky about them, because what if something happens, right?
Right.
So I've always been real comfortable. But man,
don't let that fool you.
Not having
He'll
that
spend
ringing.
an hour trying to figure out what the main mix is.
Oh, I try to
care about the monitors.
I want to hear what's coming out front.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's what I care about. Yeah. And so for in-ears, they sound awful. And I knew they kind of would sound awful. Like as a singer is one thing, it's dry, but like as a guitar player, it's torture, because you can't hear it's great if I got an amp cranked and I have my ears, then it's fine. But it just sounds so dry and sterile. But my ears weren't ringing from that cymbal that's right here. And
there was a show we played, because he was kind of, when we transitioned, obviously you have to get used to it. And, I was watching the bass play, the drummer we have was used to the in-ears, right? But the bass, him and the bass player were not. And so they were always pulling one out, and then they were complaining, it's not live. I don't feel like I'm there. I don't feel it. And I'm like, what is your problem? Right. So I walked around in the crowd one gig and had him.
I was like,
I know he is, right? He has no mind at that point, right? And I'm walking around, I'm having the best time. I'm like, I don't understand what the problem is. I don't have to talk to people and I can still hear the music. People are coming up to me talking. I'm like, I don't know what you're saying, man. I'm listening.
Yeah.
I personally liked it, but
I understand them, and I know that they're a pretty important tool with different stages, and they're more consistent, and it's less space.
It's just, I think from a setup standpoint and performance standpoint, it's two things, right? You're protecting your hearing, and it's kind of an efficiency thing for setup. I mean, your sound guy don't have to figure out wedges and all of that.
Do you guys use the CQ for you? Are you running like the Midas or the Behringer board?
I think it's Behringer. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got the app on your phone and you mix them how you want. And sound guys,
I don't, because I still don't totally understand it all. So I'll be like, I'll tell Brandon and be like, it sounds like I'm singing into the wall. Like what?
Yeah.
Like I don't know what to tell you to fix, but this is what I'm describing it to you. And I've learned that I like a lot of reverb. A lot of effects.
And so you've really gotten in there and add. Yeah. I mean, like.
But other than that, I'm like, I don't know I wouldn't know what to change. So I just tell him like.
We got the opportunity to play quite a lot with some bands that are running lean and mean. Like Tim Montana was running lean and mean for a long time. We played with them a lot, and they go up there and they slap down that rack, and they just roll in, and they're like, give us it. And they have their own monitors. They do it all. So like the venue literally has a sound guy to run the front, and he's like, oh, they're fine. Yeah. They're going to get here and be like, here. And they take care of everything else. And I was like,
Are you guys to the point, do you have, are you running your own sound, or do you have a sound guy that deals with your band?
We're pretty fortunate, because my guitar player owns Perfect Wave Sound Company in Rapid City. So he is a super tech at sound. However, you still can't always be on stage running your own sound, because it's just not the same as listening out front. But so we've gotten by a lot without but now without having a sound guy. But now that was going to be one of the things with this this transition of how we pay, then we would have some money to pay a sound guy on certain shows.
We have to.
That's really what's facilitating ours too, is we've gotten to the point we've ran sound on stage, and we've
run
done a
from
good
the
job
stage.
to this point, but it's
Mhm.
now it's just time. And so in order to recoup that, you've gotta kind of transition the way that you pay. So that's a
Yeah.
change for us this year too. And I think that just comes with growth, you know.
But I think it
Yeah,
works for
true.
what we're trying to do. It limits, you can't go
Mhm.
play this $700
Right.
bar gig you used to, but then do you really want to?
Exactly.
And how much can you beat your head against the wall around the same area you've been for 5 years? Is that really pushing your mission further? Or is it time, in our case, to take 2 years, shit, 2 months or 2 weeks, go to Arizona and slam through 10 shows,
Yep.
and we play a band gig, but it's a good band gig at a street dance. So
Right.
the things you do choose to do, they're good
Yep.
and they pay to where you can afford the whole thing. So your
Yep.
show's better.
Right.
But then on the flip side, you're doing the footwork to push your brand to these other places. And that's what our next year is. That's what we're going to try to do.
And we've
Yep.
tried to transition to, I mean, everybody in the Midwest is used to 4-hour bar gigs, right? And
Push
you're
that
doing
tree.
some of your covers and or some of your originals and covers. And we've really tried to shift that and be like, here's what you get, but it's 3 hours now,
Mhm.
right? And it's
Well,
and
that's
it's
a lot.
with the venues that we've built relationships with to say, you know what you're getting when we come there, and we're just not going to do the 4 hours anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a huge, that's another hour of load in and load out. That, I mean, it becomes a 6-hour day, you know, by the time you sound check
is.
and you do all
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah. And then when you're attracting maybe some higher caliber musicians to your camp,
Mhm.
those guys aren't throwing
they're not going to throw me here
schlepping
to do
gear.
4 hours.
No.
They're like, you're running
Yeah.
sound from the stage? I gotta carry subs.
Right. Are you serious?
I
Yeah.
think you're not ready for me. You know, like that
Right.
kind of an attitude. And when you're
Mhm.
looking up,
Yep.
you're like, oh, damn, asshole. But
Yep.
then when you understand them, you're like, well, I gotta get on your level.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm nuts. So yeah,
It all comes down
it
to
all works. But I think there too, where like Arizona, just it's more now it's like, well, we'll run down there and we can line up 4 nights full band. We'll run down, the guys will get a cheap Allegiant flight, come down, and we'll play those full band.
Yep.
And then they'll go back, and then we'll continue on doing these. And that's what we're kind of trying to do next. And there too, I think telling a band member that they're like, yeah, I think you have to take things a gig at a time, because
Mhm.
that's always what we've done. If someone says, hey, does this date and time work for this amount of bucks? They're like, yeah. If you tell a new bass player that comes to your band, I'm going to do fly gigs in Arizona, and it's pop, they're going to be like, oh shit. Well, I really didn't really want to come into that kind of a thing,
Right.
maybe not. But if you play a couple gigs and then you say, hey, here's the scoop. If you can get off Friday at noon, I want you to jump on a plane. I'll pay you $50 a day per diem, and it's $200 for the gig. Come down, cool place. It's January. It sucks up here, but it's awesome down
Yep.
in Arizona. You want to do that, and you'll be back Sunday afternoon at 2. They'd be like, yeah,
Right.
I'll do that. That sounds awesome.
we hope.
Yeah.
I know.
That's
That's
the same deal as, trucking down to Crystal Springs 3 hours away on a Saturday afternoon,
Yeah.
loading in, getting done, driving home, getting home at 4 a.m.
Yep.
Except it's way more fun. Sounds exotic.
Sounds exotic. I like it. Yeah, the getting out of the area is going to be the biggie this year, trying to make it pencil out and make it work. And yeah, everybody has a day job. I'm fortunate
Yeah.
enough with the salon, I can come and go as I please because I just booth rent. So I can be like, oh, well, adios, see you in 2 days. But yeah, you gotta be able to make that work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably, well, maybe not a lot of people, the 4 followers we have probably looked at the Arizona thing going, damn, that sounds so cool. Don't get it twisted, as they say. We both worked full time on
Yeah.
the road. We both have our own, so it was hammering jobs 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and then gigging when we could. And it's a commitment. It was a grind, and we learned a lot of lessons. And I think the biggest thing I can tell anybody in there, whether it's the musician or the spouse that's tied to the musician or the significant other, if you're willing to put yourself out there and try it, you're going to learn things that work and figure out what works for you and what your make or break is, and stand by those boundaries. And the rest of it, just make sure it's fun.
Yeah.
And we're having fun. We're not necessarily saying the way that we do it is the way everybody can do it. We're a unique pair. We're a lot to take on. Or I should say, he's great. I'm a lot. I come with it. But you just got to figure out what works for you.
I just think for her and I, like when we talked about any sort of possibilities, and every musician has a little pipe dream of, what if, but I never met anybody who was like, let's do that,
Right.
And then I think for us, but the main thing is the mission is like her and I, what fits our life, and if that were to change, the thing about music, and I don't know, you're getting a little ways down life where we're working, we're still working jobs, we're putting in our time, with music. If I don't have to do something, I don't have to do anything.
Right.
At this stage, if someone told me to put out a Christmas album, I would say I don't have to, and I'm not gonna.
Right.
Because nobody's paying me $1 million.
Yep.
And that doesn't make or break my house. I'm working a job.
Yep.
So when it comes to like what we're pushing, we will take this as far as it goes. Whatever drop of blood. We've built it. We put in enough time. I'm sure you feel the same. Nobody's going to take it from you, and you will do what it takes. But the bottom base foundation of it is her and I are number one, and these other things fall number two. Right. So if it didn't fit our life, like, I'm not going anywhere, or I'll quit, or we'll quit, or whatever, so that's number one. So if it was, hey, Collin, go on tour for 3 months and never see Ashley, I wouldn't do that. I'm not going to do that. But I think too, with today's industry, you can do things your own way. And I don't think anybody can tell you.
There's been such a turn in, the last years of artists that they're done being told what they can and can't do. And there's, independent is the thing. And it should be in the first place. You should be able to make your music how you like and your style. And you shouldn't have people telling you, you're too country, you're too bluesy, you're too this, you need to do this, you need to do that. That's at that rate, why make music then? But,
well, if you got people backing you, I get that. But if you're backing yourself, like, wouldn't you want to be happy with what you do every day?
Right. Yep.
And that's where we're at. So that's what we're trying to do. And I think, that's the bottom line.
And I think that's been the tough thing is you're talking about an industry that wants to label everything, right? Whether it's country, and you look at mainstream country now, and it's got Post Malone and Beyonce and all of this, and you look at the divided, there should be a different genre that's rap country or whatever you want to call it. And we've even struggled with some of the stuff that is on his upcoming album of, it's not country, but it's also not quite metal, or it's not quite rock. And he's a metal guy through and through. That's what he started playing, was guitar player in the metal genre, and he dabbled in some bands in that route and decided to go the country. He's got a very heavy influence on that, and you hear that in the guitar riffs and some of the way that he songwrites. And it doesn't fit, nothing ever fits that pocket. But if you're confident in what you're kicking out for a product, whether it's got a perfect label on it or not, and whether your songs are over 4 minutes or not, you write what you want to write because you're passionate about it, and the right people will find the music. And
I think we do that to ourselves.
Oh yeah.
I'll be like, oh man, if I try, I don't know about you, but if I try to write something, I just can't seem to get it right. Like I know it's not good,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
or if you get
If you try
something,
to write it so that it fits.
you get something, it
label.
pours out, and then you're like, but this isn't whatever,
Right.
you know.
Yep.
And you start doing it to yourself. We start doing it to ourselves, and it just comes from insecurity.
Yeah.
But then I
It
go
is.
back to like, what am I getting per? Okay, man, this kicks ass. I don't know what it is, but it like, and if nobody listened to it, I'm really happy I have it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whatever that one song is, or this little
Yep.
whatever, and
Yep.
that's enough.
Right.
That's it. Stop.
It is. Yep. Absolutely. And that's what makes you a true artist, I think. You know,
I
that's
think that's what makes people true artists. The people that
Yep.
I like to listen to. I don't know about you,
Yep.
but like
Oh,
they
yeah.
don't write a song for a specific reason.
No.
It is kind of funny. He'll come in, you know, he's obviously
Then I'll know
the way
it.
the music industry
This
works,
is
right?
gonna be
You've put music out,
Or whatever.
you've
Yep.
put an album out there. You're a year down the road from that, right? Because you have to start writing new stuff, right? This was last year's work that's just coming out now.
Right.
So he's writing again, and he'll come in, and I'm cooking supper, and he'll be like, I need a word that works with this, and it'll be like, I don't know, shoe, blue, true. Like I'm of no help, right? Because I'm just like, I don't know. 'Cause
However, sometimes
you-
that sparks something and you're like, never mind, I got it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you suck. Let me go this route. Like, yeah, that's how this works. Be like, I don't know. What do you want from me?
I know. Brandon is zero help too.
Yeah.
Zero.
But I think there too.
Sometimes you have to know what's not gonna work.
Right.
To know what's gonna work.
I think that's the beauty of it too, though, because a lot that which cowboy country song, it's done or whatever. But I had this part now, I just wasn't liking it or whatever what I had come up with, and we were like, she uses Chat GPT with her work all the time, and she was like, let's see. And we were at the grocery store, like telling Chat GPT, and then like grabbing some yogurt, and what it say, and it was like, that's awful. Like it was shit. Like, I'm sorry, but the AI is
AI
not going to be
cannot
able to
write.
do
Yeah.
this. Like,
I-
and her
I
Chat
have yet
GPT is
to
pretty
hold it for
good. She's like VP of HR at a startup company, and it writes some pretty damn good business stuff, but it writes awful songs.
The problem
You're
is,
like, oh
so
God.
I mean, this is a whole nother 2-hour session, right? But AI learns from what you put into it. So I have built a lot of time with my AI I work in human resources. I work for an ag tech startup company. It knows my language. And so then I completely pivot and I asked my AI to write you a country song. And it was the worst. I'll tell you what. I'll send you the lyrics.
Yeah,
It
do
was the worst.
Have you ever used it?
No,
Just
but now
in
I'm
general?
inclined to try it.
Oh,
It tells you like, well,
you
I
have
used
to
it
prompt
time. I've
it.
seen
I
her,
think we
but
told
it's
it
like talking to it, but it tells you the reasons why it decided to make whatever it makes, and it was like, we think this captures the true gritty spirit of the Western, and it was like, already I can tell it's not going to be good, and then it spits it out, and it was like, nope.
Very.
Pretty fun.
Oh man, yeah. Now I'm definitely intrigued to try it. Just
So I think that's the
for anybody that's watched this video to this point, a tip and trick is
not use Chat GPT.
Chat GPT.
You should be happy to
for
know.
lyric writing.
Yeah, it doesn't work, which I think is important. I love Brent Cobb, and only Brent Cobb puts words and figures of speech together like Brent Cobb does.
This is a whole nother piece of this, and him and I had a debate on it, and I will end with my commentary here. When you talk about AI, and you talk specifically about Travis Tritt, no, Tritt,
Randy
who
Travis.
lost Randy Travis, right? And you
Right.
talk about the career that he has had, and that AI could regenerate his voice so he could hear his latest work in his voice. To me, impactful. There's right ways and there's
Right.
wrong ways to use AI. And I think there has to be some sort of industry standard around that. That 100% agree, appreciate, see the value. But to write a song and only give it a couple ideas prompt is just this, it's no bueno.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they did that with Johnny Cash too, I think.
Yeah.
Did they? They
Yeah.
had
And I would imagine there's probably something sitting out there with Keith Urban too that will probably
yeah.
come to light. I gotta believe he was still songwriting through all of his stuff. So
Hey, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Which have you gone to that Wild West Songwriter Festival thing? Done anything? Been up and watched some?
I've attended it as a
You've attended?
spectator.
Kicks ass, doesn't it?
It is. It's
If I
very
was
cool.
gonna attend, like, it's not packed. It's a really cool.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I only, I had heard of it, for several years, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And at the time, I wasn't, like I said, I've only been doing music consistently, and then definitely not hardly writing. So I was like, I don't know about the writers thing, like whatever. And then when one of my musician friends was like, you should just come up, just check it out. And I did, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I watched the showcase that had the guy that wrote Whiskey Glasses, and he had like a couple pop hits too, but there was, and then like a young kid that was, I don't know if he was barely 21, but super, like, that was super inspirational too. It was really cool.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool too. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I didn't know what to expect, but it was.
I think it was when you're in bar gigs on repeat, right? And you're not necessarily always into that creative element. It was refreshing to go to something like that where the people that were in attendance were there because of the songwriting, which was something up to this point we hadn't really put ourselves out there, and or I shouldn't say he hadn't put himself out there yet and experienced. So that was eye-opening for us. Yeah, so I would, if you're gonna go next year, we should connect because we're already we booked our Airbnb, and I know you live out there, but
I had plans on doing it, and I actually was scheduled to do a showcase, and then we had a little change of plans, and Brandon and I and my dad went down to Memphis and bought a bus and drove it home.
Which furthers your mission, right? So you kind of got to pick and choose.
So I was like, so we've been looking at upgrading, because as much as we love the old bus, it's to the point where it's not probably feasible to continue to put money into it when it's 40 years old. And you fix one thing and the next thing falls apart.
So did you trade in?
No, we kept it.
Do you have two buses?
Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous. However, I do. Besides that bus was the whole family story with with Brandon's family and the lead guitar for Sawyer Brown. That was their family bus before. So besides the sentimental value that we couldn't let it go, nobody would ever be able to drive it because it is 100% like Johnny Cash together. And my dad and his dad built it, and they needed to upgrade. Oh yeah, needed to upgrade the engine, and they just had this one laying around. Well, the only way to make it fit was to put it in there backwards. So the shifting pattern on the floor is completely opposite of anything. So like it is, I'm telling you, it's seriously, one piece at a time together. So there's two people in this whole world that can drive that thing, and that would be my dad and Brandon.
And so you took this all the way to Okoboji, right? Because you brought it to Okoboji, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did. 68.
It is Johnny Cash together. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, and that's not even the half of it. It's like their dad was so just like could fix anything on the road. They did tours all over, and they would, you know, stay in Walmart parking lots, and something would happen and he would fix it on it all night, and then they would get up and continue on, you know. So it was whatever he had at the time. So, you know, every single like wire in there is yellow because that's all I had. So it's like, well, I don't know what this goes to. I don't know what this goes to. I don't know what, you know, this could be the bathroom light. It could be the headlights. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's seen its time on the road for sure. And with us wanting to get out and travel more, we were like, man, truly the expense of taking a bus is not a whole lot different than taking, you know, a diesel pickup pulling a big trailer to fit all of us. It's really not. So we're like, obviously there's multi-million-dollar buses out there that we would never afford. And Brandon's like, I just think we should upgrade. I think, you know, and I said, well, I agree, but it has to be affordable because nobody around here is making millions by any means. So we kind of kept our eye out, and he was constantly on the bus sites, and this one came up, and it was everything we wanted, and it had a cool story with it. And it was in, I don't know if you're familiar with the country band Little Texas, but they had it like 2 owners ago and had it in their music videos and whatever. So I was like, well, this is super cool. And so then the guy that owned it, actually, he had played in a band for a long time, and then he went on to do like cruise gigs. So he was gone on cruise ships for, you know, 6 weeks at a time, whatever.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I'm not home, but I'll be home October 16th, which was my birthday. And I was like, well, this just doesn't line up any better. So I said, I think it's meant to be. Like, we got to go check it out. So unknowing, we flew down there, and we're like, well, we're either going to drive it back home or we're going to fly back home. And of course, that was
sure.
So yeah, cool. I had to tell the guy that was in charge of it. I'm like, so here's the deal.
That's
like,
awesome.
This is the only opportunity we have to go get this thing. And
next year you should, and we're planning to, and I think Corey's planning to.
Yeah, even if it's not to play, just to go and
right, if we don't invite
people that we're going either way. So
yeah, they probably won't invite me now because I dogged out on them the first time they invited me. I know, not very good. But yeah,
if they're listening, don't think that way. Be better people. She's fine.
Right.
Bring her back. She had to get the bus.
I think Corey and I are the same thing, and I think we all felt the same way at the end of it. Like, man, this was
it's just refreshing.
Cool. You know, nice change.
It's kind of like, I'm sure, I mean, hopefully you had a really good experience. The first time I stumbled across the Midwest Country Music Org, like randomly. I don't even remember how I found it, but I was doing some sort of hunt right online like I do, and came across it. And we went down to, it was the 2022 awards, which would have been April of 23. Just to like
to go on a date,
attend it, right? And we were gonna go on a date, dressed up, went, and just really enjoyed.
Thought it's just a great show,
the experience, and so decided to join the org from there, and submitted some stuff the next year, and was able to attend. He was able to play, you know, and jam with and network with some of these people.
Know, like,
and you just gotta find your people, right? I think it's the type of organization you get out of it what you give it, and that doesn't mean that it has to be any particular thing, but you just have to find your people. That doesn't mean everybody in the org's got to be buddies with everybody. You find the people that line up with how you think and what your mission is, and you go from there. So
that was my kind of like hope, was just because we just went to the show and it was really cool, but it was just her and I, you know, and we saw it and it was like, whoa. Right. You know, but actually getting to play, which you did too last year, it's a different experience, right? You know, you are mixing it up more and meeting people. And I think the most important thing is just making a connection with whoever that person at sound check is, and you just happen to have a couple drinks that night. Like, rather than I get on the board and nobody tells me that my new single's good or whatever. Like, right. It's more so go there and make a connection with a person, and then maybe you send them your song you just wrote last week, because you know, and they're like, yeah, it's cool, but what about this? You know, that to me, that's the value.
Yeah. And I felt that way with you guys. Like, we didn't know each other before that. So just getting, to meet you and being like, hey, some fellow South Dakotans. And I thought that was really awesome because there really, to my knowledge, was there any other South Dakota people there? I don't think
No,
so.
I think back to, so you're
Well,
talking
except
about
for
the,
bonus parts, I guess.
the first meeting we had with PT. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was literally you.
Just you and us.
And
Yep.
You were on the phone.
and
Nobody came.
we had put out a call. We had talked to musicians we knew on the east side, and that was it.
Yeah,
right?
it was.
So,
But it's my personal opinion. This is just how I feel.
that's what a personal opinion would be
Uh,
defined as.
right.
Did
When it
AI tell you that?
Mhm.
When it comes to our state and the people that I've come to know, and I'm sure you feel the same, they get skeptical. It's time, and if you're like shouting and waving and jumping up and down, like, you're not going to come running.
Right.
But if you stick around and keep going, and they decide, you know what, Jessica Luby's doing it because she kicks ass. A, she's good, and B, she's doing it because it matters to her. It's not like she thinks she's Taylor Swift and she's going to be changing outfits every third song. She actually gives a shit.
Yep.
Then, and you just keep doing what you do.
Yep.
And you keep working, because the work is number one for me. If you keep working, then pretty soon, folks, that you think are up here, who I feel are up here, are like, huh, that seems all right. What's that about?
You got
And I think that's the leading for that whole example thing versus jumping up and down. Because, if I tell my buddy Weston, who I think the world of, come do this, man, over here, he's like, don't be weird, man. But then pretty soon he's asking, what's this about? Or like Mark, our producer, who he's skeptical of everybody.
Right.
But Mark's like, what's that about? That looks pretty cool.
Yep.
I think that's
Yeah.
like step one with anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the first time you started your band, that was step one.
Yep. That was a big old step.
Big old step.
I was like, man, this could either fall completely on its face or it could be really cool. But
well, we'll have to talk offline, but obviously I don't know if you've seen the van that we roll around in, but if you've got a new bus, you and I got to connect about you got to wrap that thing.
Oh man. We actually talked about wrapping the old one because the paint was falling off so bad. We were like, if we're gonna preserve this, and I was like, no, we can't cover up the mural and whatever. So
well, yeah, there's
like
a legacy to that.
That
one,
was a
though,
big
right?
thing, but yeah, that's funny you bring that up because we had talked about doing something to that effect.
Okay.
Or
Well,
even our trailer that we pull, because
yeah,
more times than not, we're probably still gonna end up pulling the trailer. Anyway. Yeah. So
I think
yeah,
it comes down to branding, and it'd be amazing, even when we're not with the van, even if we're not out doing gigs, it's working, right? Because it's
awesome.
branding and it's in people's face. So Octane Inc. over here on the east side of the state, I'm sure Rapid's got, a plethora of them too, but we can talk about kind of what cost is and stuff, and it wasn't that bad. I mean, for what it wasn't that bad, I don't think.
Yeah, we definitely talked about it. Because when we pulled up to the CMOs and saw your guys', we're like, that is so cool. We need to, capitalize on that because
and if you have a venue or somebody out there that you could put their logo on it too for some sponsorship.
Because you got a bunch of sponsors just with your album stuff.
Yeah, I did, but Sturgis is very supportive.
Yeah.
For sure. Is your dog barking?
Yeah,
it's Corgi
too. Yeah, he's like at everything. Every cat, raccoon, shadow.
I hear somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quiz. Quit.
Oh.
I know. Animals.
Well,
it's been really great talking.
This has been great.
It has.
I don't know
Thank
if all of them have gone over 2 hours, but
You know, I talked with Joe Flip. I don't know if you guys talked to him.
Mhm.
But,
You're one of the first people I kind of got to meet and talk with.
oh, cool. Yeah. We had such a struggle getting Zoom to work and the recording to work and everything. Like we spent the first hour just like back and forth, like, okay, hold on, I got to close this out just a second. Okay, try it again. Okay, hold on. so
yeah.
yeah, that was a whole evening commitment. But this has been really cool. Like I love it. I love getting to know you guys. And so I don't know what you have coming up for the next year, you know, project wise or music wise or whatever, or you know what your announcements are going to be. But I had been thinking about this since the show, honestly. Like, what could we do to like bridge the gap with, you know, even just South Dakota artists, if it's just east, you know, east to west or whatever, and then you know eventually to you know our side of the state clear to Minnesota or whatever. But there is a disconnect obviously between East River and West River.
Yeah.
And as far as like CMO artists for sure. And I was like, you know what? I would really love to do a collaboration song. And I think it would be super cool if we did one together. So keep that in mind. You know, I think that would be awesome. I think it'd be a cool you know, way to feed off each other's you know, followings and just get to do some creative writing, because I've learned I really enjoy the writing part now that I've gotten to be part of it, and writing with other people. And so there's
Do you have a studio at all that you've used locally, or have you only gone off to Nashville?
I have only gone off to Nashville.
Okay.
And if you are interested in that whatsoever, you know, I know that you have your band and they may not love that idea either, but you know, if we did just a single song together and then, you know, as your experience together, go down and cut it in Nashville just so you can check it out and see what it's all about, and get to do something like that. I would absolutely be willing to get you in on all the hookups down there with all the big musicians and whatever.
Yeah,
I think definitely
I'm always interested in people's process, you know,
Yeah.
because the writing thing is so interesting.
It is.
And I think there too, it's a bit for people that write together or don't write together. It's such a tricky, you know, thing to get together and not stomp on anybody's ideas and be able to put something together, you know. And some people just don't mix, you know, and
right.
others like really do it. It's kind of like a weird musical dating thing, you know. But when you have two people who really can just, you know, that's really cool, you know. And there are some people who are just so set on it's just me, you know, and that's cool too. It's everybody has a different way of doing stuff.
Yeah.
I think definitely let's keep in contact and see kind of what you two brain children creatives come up with. I think there's, you know, we've obviously got a really good relationship with Mark Dom, and he's got his private studio and stuff where there's probably an opportunity to have you guys come this way if you would be interested, and just book some studio time and see what comes out of it. So
yeah, I think and we don't really, I think there's like one studio in Rapid maybe, and I really don't even know if that's all that reputable, but that was the other thing, is like, where would I even remotely come up with, you know, like a studio that would do something like this, you know? So
even to make the connection, and Mark Dom, if you're listening, well, he would have not, he'd have stopped watching a long time ago, but he always protects his, you know, he's definitely not a public studio. He runs it private. He only wants to work with the people he wants to work with. But having an in with somebody that's in there just to come over and experience him and get to know him, I think would be an opportunity for you. So we'll figure out a way.
I'm just curious, like, what sort of costs? We never talked about that. Like, what kind of costs? I gotta expect it's pretty high.
What, Nashville?
Nashville, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
If you don't mind my asking, if you don't mind.
No, not at all. You know, it is different, and I guess I have nothing to compare it to, because like I said, I didn't have any. But most of the studio time you book out, I guess I did more than one song too, but it penciled out to about $1,000 to $1,500 a song.
Mhm.
And that was
But that
front.
covered all your musicians
That
and
was the
everything.
band
Yep.
and the studio time.
That was
and
studio
mixed and
time,
mastered.
mixed, mastered, finishing touches, everything from the time I walked in there to the time they sent me the mastered copy. So I don't know what, you pay here, but I honestly didn't think that was out of line because
Yeah.
you got
Mhm.
I had, at least 6 musicians on every song, and then the
Yeah.
time they took and the caliber of what they were doing.
Yeah.
And
I
so
had like a pipe dream to go down to Texas with my buddy Paul, and so we've been pricing out studios in Austin and stuff. And I'm kind of like, well, if it's just a studio, like we can do that here. But like, so I want to go somewhere where it's a good studio, where something might
Yep.
happen, like,
Yep.
and I know that the band's going to be a bunch of ringers, but yeah, just like, I wonder how much this is going to run. You know what I mean? I
Yep.
hope it's not ridiculous to where it's like, hey, 25,000 for a 3-song EP. Like,
Right. Yeah.
we don't know.
Yeah, so we've just kind of started exploring that, and we always go back to Austin because we obviously spent some time there, and it's trying to find something that's again, it goes back to labels, right? Like if you listen to Colin's stuff, he's not your traditional Nashville sound, but he's not really blues either, and so
Yep.
just trying to try something different. And Texas has kind of been a draw, and we have a foot in the door there. So I don't know, we'll see. But right now it looked like from what we saw, like $150 for studio for a day. But then
No,
like
it wasn't 150.
for a day for the studio, and then you pay for the musicians on top of that. You pay for the mastering on top of that. So I don't think we know what that realized cost is yet.
What you're saying maybe sounds about right.
Yeah.
A lot of these
Yeah.
guys, like musicians, are $300 a song.
Yeah,
Depending on how many people you have. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that's actually it's actually cheaper that way to go.
You got steel bass, drums, guitar.
So
Whatever.
my last
you
album
go.
I had all the basic plus rhythm. So the same guy that played rhythm played mandolin on some stuff, and then he played keys on some stuff too. So he would play through his part and then go back and play the keys and then go back and play the mandolin or whatever. So, there was easily like 8 parts to it across 5 musicians.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel like, I don't know, part of one reason I would be apt to, I'm happy with the records I make with Mark, but would you feel apt to like, well, this producer, because the producers are AR guys a lot of times, if they hear something and they're like, I'm just going to throw this that way because they should hear this. Did you have any like hopes of that, or did you even think
A little
that?
bit, just because I know, just who I know has been in and out of there, in and out of that
Mhm.
studio doing music. And there was a couple other artists that were in and out at the same time. We were trading spaces, so I was doing vocals while they were doing, their tracking, and then we just switched and whatever. And there wasn't any, real highfalutins in there when I was in there, but like I said, he works closely with Luke Combs and
Mhm.
some bigger artists. And so there you would imagine that there's plenty of networking that goes on in there too. Yeah,
And oh,
what's
go
that?
ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, if you wanted to look it up or whatever, it's Saxman Studios, and it's actually Mount Juliet, which is like a suburb of
Mhm.
Nashville.
You never got the feeling that you were like, they're just cranking it out, sending it down the line? No,
Mm-mm.
it
No,
felt
I didn't.
like
Yeah,
you're
especially
tight with
after
those people.
the vocal sessions when they were so nitpicky about everything and going over it and going over it and going over it. And I was like, okay, they really care what they're cranking out, like,
Mhm.
and it was always like, do you want anything changed? Do you want anything fixed? Do you want, do you like this? Do you like that? And of course, these musicians are way above my pay grade. So I'm like, what do you think I'm going to come up with that I would suggest to you to fix? Like,
Mhm.
definitely not. Like, no, I'm sure it's fine. And you can come in and play your, you could do your own stuff too. You wouldn't have to hire a lead guitar if you wanted to be your lead guitar, you know, then do it yourself, you know, but yeah, I felt like they had, you know, it wasn't rushed at all. There was plenty of one-on-one time. Yeah.
What about mixing? Like, did they send you, hey, here's a mix, what do you think? And you're like, hey, bass down, snare up, whatever.
Yep. They sent me 3 different versions of mix before they did the mastering. And the first one I was like, this sounds freaking awesome. Like, I don't even know what to tell you to fix. And then they're like, all right, well, I'm going to go in and, you know, tweak this, and this, and then I'll send it to you again. And then, all right, now, and then again, like after a second round, I really didn't have anything to nitpick about. And then he's like, well, I go over everything a third time, you know, so then you pick and send it off. And then he has a different guy do the mastering.
Yeah.
So by the time your music is done, it's been through, you know, multiple sets of ears, because the musicians have heard it. He's heard it. The vocal engineers heard it, you know, the whatever other guy, and then it gets to the mastering. So, you know, which is cool, because if you're the same person that's doing all of that, you immediately get burnt out. Like, you just do, because you've heard the song 60 million times. You know, you're gonna miss stuff. But yeah, it was really, really awesome. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. So, but yeah, and you know, these guys do a lot of their studio work in that area. You know, the same musicians that Sawyer Brown just put their new album out was the same people that just did mine. So, you know, there's a lot of respect and trust in that circle of musicians too, to just hand it over and go, we know you have what it takes to bring this to life, and we can, you know, count on it being quality work.
Yeah.
How's your local band feel? I mean, they're basically kind of given a finished product, right? And you're like, okay, listen to this, learn this, go play it. Are they getting it? Are they struggling with it? It's hard. Are you letting them have some creative, like,
yes,
this is the basis, but do your interpretation of it?
Yeah.
You almost have to, because I'm giving them something has 8 parts and I'm asking 3 of them to cover it, you know, or 4, you know. So I'm like, you guys, you got to pick and choose what you think are the most important elements out of this and kind of do it in your own way.
Yeah.
So when you write a tune, do you work it up with your band before you go? Or were you like, I got these, and then I go do this, and then whatever that is, that's what the vision is, type of thing?
Yeah, no, these guys hadn't heard a lick of it until I got back with the finished product and handed it to them, which was kind of fun.
Do that. Don't you want to be like, you gotta hear this song I made?
I know. The hard part is, like, back to that Mary Had a Little Lamb thing. You know, it's your vision of it is so different. And then I was like, if I hand this to them now, they're gonna be like, that is cheesy as all get out, you know. But then you hand it to them as a finished product, and they're like, wow, this is really cool. We love it, you know. So,
and it's so true.
They would probably judge.
You know, if you don't paint them the whole picture and you give them a part, they can't see the picture.
No.
Like, just like when you're sketching something out. Yeah.
And there were definitely, I mean, even through this album process, there were times where, I mean, God, we went, has it been a year? For a year, every Thursday. We called it Guitar Thursday, but it was often Vocal Thursday or Harmonica Thursday or whatever. And I'm sitting there, you know, listening to it. I'm going, I don't hear what you think you hear in your head. Like, what is this process? And then you get to the end and you're like, that was in there the whole time? Like, why couldn't you have just said that? Why couldn't you?
I think, like, working up with band, I think that's a huge, like, and I was just asking Jessica, because, you know, it's so hard when you really, as the singer songwriter, like, just, if you don't come in and have it clear, they aren't going to get it. No. They're not going to get what you're trying to paint. So and that's where I feel like sometimes people, it's not like you're controlling, because I'm not controlling. I just, once you see the picture, if you're like, the picture sucks, let's move this to here, I'm like, cool.
Right.
But if I feel like you don't see the picture, we're not moving anything till you get the picture.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes there can be, the too many chiefs, not enough Indians situation,
Yes.
So
if the
you're
drummer's
like,
there's gonna be a huge, and
Yeah.
then then it becomes convoluted.
Right. So I think part of my keeping it to myself until it was completely done was to kind of avoid having all this inside or outside, influence and not being able to keep it to what
Interesting.
I really wanted,
Oh, so
But I
are you gonna stay with that process forever?
I don't know.
You gotta leave that door open if you get a sweet
I could
rocket
probably leave it.
and that you're like, damn, we're writing songs together.
Yeah.
I think you see where
Yeah, it all just, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and it definitely, it's totally different as a co-writer because I did do some co-writing down there too.
Mhm.
And I totally thrive on, everybody else's way of doing it and what they plug in and what they say, and their ideas and how they, format stuff too. So yeah, not to say that I would be like, no, my way or the highway, definitely not
Mhm.
that. Just from the musical standpoint of what I already had in my head and wanted to bring home to the,
Well,
those
you've
guys.
already told us. Like,
Yeah.
you're saying you're not, but you are. You're a liar.
Nuh-uh.
Yes, you are. You have a
Nope.
standard and you're not willing to go under that standard. So if you don't feel comfortable with the standard, you might or might not get, you're going to get the standard first.
Is this where the Wi-Fi
Yes.
cuts out? Well, oh, we have Wi-Fi.
See? So like we all think, oh, I'm not controlling. Like, well,
Yeah,
she has a standard. She has a
you're
standard
not,
she
but
wants to
you
hit with her
have-
music.
there has
have
to
a
be a
vision.
level of control because it's your creative project.
You have a
right?
vision.
And I look forward to the day where you come in the house, you ask for a word that rhymes with X, I nail it out of the park, and I get co-writer credits. It hasn't happened yet, but my day is coming someday.
That's just good to hear because, yes.
Yeah.
I always wonder, about some of that I wonder about everybody's process.
And everybody is so different. So
Yeah.
different.
And Corey, that's such a gifted band. They get together
Yeah.
in an
Oh, I
Airbnb
know.
and write songs together, like, they all understand what the brand and mission of that band is and they write towards that or whatever,
Yeah.
and that's really cool. But that's not your process.
And that's not our
Right.
process.
But that's not mine.
We put that
Just
on that's the pedestal we want
all
to get to
worry
that
what-
process, but
Yeah. And when we went to that, it was a songwriter showcase, but it was in Sioux Falls. And there was the one guy who he was a badass. And I forget all the songs he had cuts on, but he was talking about a guy that he co-writes with, and this guy's got some land outside of Nashville, and they just go there in the morning, drink coffee out behind the bar and watch the sun come up. Whether or not, and they shoot the shit about life, whether or not they write a song or not, that's just they're hanging out and we're working. It's not really working. I was like, what a cool way
I
to
love that. I think that's
be,
awesome. Yeah, for sure. I think that's very, very cool. Have you done much co-writing?
I haven't at all. I've had people I've kind of approached or whatever, and we bounce things off one another, but really haven't had let's sit down, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And then the band members I've had where we sat down, we didn't get anywhere, so I haven't discovered a relationship with somewhere I was like, man, we're I came out of that excited. We made something, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I'm also just sometimes it takes a lot for it to come out. Sometimes it just comes out of you, and other times you hammer it for hours.
Yeah.
You're just locked in a room, and then it all just works.
we've kind of got a weird you put all your energy and effort into a full album, and it consumes so much of your time on top of gigging and doing all of that stuff that you get to the other side of it and there's this lull and kind of almost this depression of, well, now what, right? Like,
Right.
and
Yep.
now it's winter and you don't have all of the street dances and the festivals and the rodeos and all of that. For being in the Midwest, there's a lot of seasonality to the gigs you play. And it's gotten to the point where, I have my job and I'm back in school, so I do school work in the evening. And so it's very much like, I need you to just go out in the band room and just go try to write something. Even if nothing comes out, you need to just go log some time or go work on your guitar playing. And it's almost become this like, this is your time, go do that. And I have to push him out there to go do it. And he'll come back in. Sometimes there's nothing comes out, right? And he's frustrated.
Right.
And then the next day he'll go out there and 15 ideas came out. And it's
Yep.
interesting to see that, because I'm so analytical and everything's so structured. I'm not used to that, but I get like the structure part of it for me is make him go out there.
Right.
Do
Yeah,
you write with guitar, right? You don't play piano or anything.
Right. No. I wish I played piano.
It's crazy people play
it would
piano.
be way easier from a, melodic standpoint to have
Understand.
background.
Yeah.
But
so when you write, is it like you get for me, it always starts with the guitar.
I'm the other way around. Like, I got the lyrics.
You have lyrics and you put music to them.
Yeah. Only, I think mostly because I go into it knowing that I am a very, very, very basic guitar player. However, I was always super good at, English and writing, and that was my strength through school. So I'm really, I'm good at rhyming that stuff together, but but my strength is not in guitar playing. So then when I do, I'll be like, okay, I feel like this is kind of like, say this is more of a little big town vibe to me, like this is kind of where I want to go with that. Then I'll go through and kind of look at their stuff and go, all right, well, maybe I'll start with like this chord progression or whatever and go from there. But I can't just like hum something and then play it. Like, that's not.
Well, what are some tips for songwriting? What are things that you discovered are good songwriting
tips?
And what comes first for you, chorus or verses?
Usually chorus, and definitely your hook.
Yeah, catchy is important to me.
Yeah. Yep. So I build around that easily, way easier than starting something from the beginning and going. Yeah,
verses come hard for me.
What's up?
Verses are hard.
They are hard. When I was down there doing that writing with Shane, he said, there's everybody has written songs about drinking and back roads and love and whatever. And he goes, the key to that is to write about the exact same thing that everybody else has written, but write it like they've never written it before. Like nobody's ever written it before. I'm like, okay, because every country song is,
it's backwards.
A lot of it is all the exact same concepts or the same, you're painting the same picture, but you're saying it in a totally different way. So you got to learn how to, write the same thing everybody else did, but do it in a way that nobody's done it before. And so that's what I try to do when I'm writing, and be like, how can I paint this picture and describe it without actually like flat out saying it, like.
Yeah, big.
So
what is your calling card? Do you think discovered like what one of your ticks is, or like things, or what you strive to have?
I don't know. That's a hard question.
What's yours?
Yeah.
Mine? Well, things I would strive for. I think great big chorus. That's big for me. Great big chorus. And whether it's country music or rock, like Alice in Chains was huge for me. That the harmonies are very important to me.
Yep. So they're
great big harmonized chorus. It's catchy, and the delivery is on time and So yeah, I would say delivery, especially in country, when I notice singers, because some country singers, like even George Strait, you're like, well, he's not using like a Beyonce like vibrato and amazing chops. He's almost singing monotone, but
Right.
the way he chops it up and delivers it is like,
Yep.
an intention.
Yep.
You got to mean it.
Right.
I don't know what any of this means.
Yeah,
just think you
I
got to
think
mean it.
sure.
And
And
I
that's
think for me on the first verse, that opening line, if it's shock, it's like they told you when you're writing short stories in school, it needs to be a shocker.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
if you start, it was a Saturday on, like, who gives a shit?
Right.
But if it's, you
Right.
come in like wham with this.
That's exactly,
statement.
that's exactly what I'm saying about writing it differently, but portraying the same thing. Like, by the time you're done with that verse, you're going to know it was Saturday, like, or whatever, but without being cheesy and saying it,
Yeah.
Unless
So
it's a song you've written where it's Saturday, but then it's also still Friday.
I've got some jacked up lyrics. I've had some where I was like, I hate these. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes,
This is what
just
works.
out of nowhere, I'll get a line or two in my head and I'm like, that's all I got, but I'm going to go write this down because I'll never think of it again, and then a month goes by and I go back to it and go, okay, like here's a couple more lines or whatever, it definitely doesn't all at once for sure. But
yeah,
I love big harmony. I think that's why I'm so on my album there's 10 songs on there. I wrote 6 of them and 4 of them were other artists or other writers. And the one that's Love Cemetery is from another artist, and I immediately loved it because the harmony is just like, it comes in cold just right at the beginning and it's really cool. So I don't know if you've listened to that, but if you have
listened to that one, we'll have to listen to it now.
Yeah, because it hits you with the harmony immediately, and then it's got a really fun, catchy. I'm about the classy, sassy, badassy kind of vibe.
Would you, I'm not speaking for you, but I'm speaking for you. Would you be up for ever doing just some harmonies?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Might be an opportunity there versus your.
Yeah, I had a tune I thought would be a good.
Sometimes
would be a good.
It's cool to have, the girl and guy harmony together because it just gives it so much.
There's just a different layer there. There's a different dynamic. Yeah.
And actually, all the harmony on this album was done by a guy, and some of that I was like, holy shit, how do you sing that high? Like, I don't understand. Those girls can't sing that high, and you would never know. We did some doubles of myself too, but just to make it fuller and fatter. But so if you're listening, it's all a guy doing it too, which was really interesting.
Who's on your Mount Rushmore of voices? Speaking of harmonies and voices, who are your people?
Oh man. Harmonies by far Little Big Town. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know if
seen them live.
Oh yeah, it is. It's like chills. It's
we saw them. It's funny you mentioned them, and I'm not. You have to answer this question in full.
Okay.
But her boss was the CEO.
Let me give you the shorter version. We were living in Austin. I worked for a company. We had the opportunity to go to this like more private fundraiser, and it was run by Matthew McConaughey, who lives in Austin, Texas.
Really?
And Little Big Town was one of the
free pass, by the way.
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey, yeah.
Well, I was gonna it was kind of between him and Dirk Bentley.
This was Dallas Buyers Club. He was really skinny.
Anyway,
he was wearing these white tight pants. He was kind of weird.
It was
not attractive. No.
Yeah, it was a very intimate event, and Little Big Town was there, and that was the first time I had seen them. And just the way that they came out and sang and provided harmonies with other musicians on top of what they performed was just that 4-piece to me is
Oh yeah.
there's nobody else that touches that.
I was like, holy shit, I never heard anybody sing like that. Cause it was like she didn't paint that colorful of a picture, but they got, it's the celebrity who's who. They're all there. They get done and they're getting drunk. Like he's walking around with a tequila, just making people, making people take shots. And there's musicians there, Little Big Town were there, and he's like making them get up and sing songs, just completely off the cuff.
Yeah.
And so like they're all just getting up there and they're singing, and telling stories and getting hammered. It's funny, but there'd be 6 people across the stage and that chick with the blonde hair, and she'd like listen to someone for a bit and then just sing like, and then the rest of them chime in. And it's like 5-part harmony on it, like a song they never heard. And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy.
If I could pull it off, I would totally have hair like hers.
Yeah, right?
I love the big hair.
Anyway, continue.
Okay,
we agree with
Little Big Town.
So Little Big Town. I feel like that should count for all 4 of them.
Right.
So as far as like, I've really always been inspired by Miranda Lambert because she has the ability to do the sassy, badassy, but she can also be completely 100% rooted country traditional.
Vulnerable
I love
vulnerable songs.
So that's definitely one. My little 4-year-old self would tell you Terry Clark. Because always, I don't know, it's not like she has, this big voice or anything, but I don't know, just her style and her maybe country grittiness in a way. I don't know. Man, I don't know who my 4th one would be. What are my other categories? I got the harmonies, the sassy, badassy. What else?
I don't know. Are they all ladies?
No, actually, so I went with one of my friends down to CMA Fest in Nashville after we graduated. We're like, we're gonna take a road trip, so we drove from here down and went for the CMA Fest. And so it's a 4-day festival, and each night, so you have 1 ticket for the whole thing. So each night has like 5 or 6 headliners with 2 or 3 little smaller acts, surprise people with them. So in one night you could see Eric Church, Brad Paisley, Miranda Lambert, Carrie Underwood, and whoever, all in the same night. And then the next night, and each one only plays like 5 songs. And then it's a whole process because they come out, they play their 5 songs, they completely redo the stage for the next act. They come and do their 5 songs, tear it all apart again. It's crazy. I'm like, how? Yeah. But they get it done, and it's not really that bad. So anyways, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so the night that we saw Eric Church, I liked Eric Church, but I wasn't like super fan. Not that I had anything against him. I just was like, oh yeah, Eric Church. And that was I've been graduated for 15 years now, but so it was a while back. But the very first time I ever saw him perform, the amount of emotion that just poured out of him was unlike anything I've ever seen. You could tell that every ounce of him was invested in showing how much that music meant to him, and how just his whole everything, his whole body, his whole his mind, his soul, everything was 100% into that performance. And we were both like, holy shit, this is amazing, and so from then on we were like, yep, that was, seeing him live made us really appreciate him as an artist. And I think he gets some flack because he's a little on the outskirts of the country world and he does this sunglass thing and whatever, but if you were to see him live, you would just be like, oh my god, there's nobody measures up to in this age of musicians, to the amount of passion that flows off the stage when he's playing.
We've had that. I don't know if you came with me when I saw him.
To Denny.
Well, the Denny, so he came through Sioux Falls and he was doing his acoustic. He didn't have anybody open. He didn't have his band with him, and that was amazing. I think that's one of my top concerts. And then I've seen him before with his full band. I don't know if you came to that one or not. And there's just, it's so different, right? With the performance, and maybe it just depended on the musicians he had with him at the time, but he is definitely somebody who he can get his message across, whether he's got all the stage and lights and the production and everything, or the full band.
Yep.
And he's just, and maybe some of that is the story, you know, if you are in the musician space or the music industry, you kind of know his story and how he's always on the outskirts of it. But yeah, he's definitely a top one for me.
Yeah, that really made me appreciate him as an artist.
The other one I think for me, and you didn't ask.
No, I was about to ask you yours. So Eric Church is on there?
Eric Church is on there.
Okay.
But I think you either love her for her vocal capacity or you hate her. But for me, Sugarland is somebody who, the dynamic between those two. I like her. Yeah, I like her solo stuff, but I like the Sugarland combo. I don't know. There's just something about those two together. Still is great. Well, no, because you have to count Little Big Town as 4.
So you're.
Oh, you mean like Eric Church and Sugarland?
Yeah.
Or my
she
2?
gave us her Mount Rushmore. What's yours?
I don't know.
You had 2.
I suppose you're on there. Isn't that what I'm supposed to do?
No.
The appropriate thing? I don't know. That's hard.
That's what these things are about.
I know.
Dig deep and give us an answer.
Dig deep.
Damn it.
While you're thinking, have you seen the live performance of Life in a Northern Town of Little Big Town, Sugarland, and Jake Owen together?
Yeah.
Have you?
Mm-mm.
Oh man,
I'm not a huge Jake Owen fan, and by huge I mean I'm really not at all. But
right, same. But that performance was smoking too.
Have you seen I think it just popped up recently, the collaboration of all of the artists that do Shenandoah River? You'll have to check that out. It's got pretty much everybody that's mainstream today, but they do it. It's the only weird thing about it is the video is it's all AI'd, but
yeah, I have seen it.
Have you seen that one? Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. The video, they could have done the video production better for sure.
Yeah. Don't tell me you were on a budget for that.
Performers.
That could be, yeah. Well, when you look at who was all on that, yeah, they probably spent it all on the performers.
All right, you got 2.
Dolly Parton.
Really?
Yeah. What is it about her that makes her on your Rushmore?
For me, I think it's just her. She's probably not top as far as vocal, but it's just the who she is and what she means to the country music industry and the generations that she spans and who she is as an individual.
Yeah.
And I mean, how do you not like the boobs? I mean, right. She's rocking them, right? So she's
harnessed the power of the boobs.
She did. She leaned into it and she capitalized on it, and I get it.
But she still did it like in a classy way.
I just feel like what she's done with it, nobody else can ever touch. Like if you do it, it's completely a play on her. And you'll never quite do it to the way that she's done it. So her, I don't know. I don't know. Think about it.
Can't think about any other one.
I don't know the game. Like I'm on the spot. No.
I know it's not easy.
Only because he's so impactful to where we're at in our own life and our own journey right now. Jackson Dean.
Oh yeah. I love his
voice.
Love it. He's coming to something. Our stock show, I think.
Really?
Yeah, we came out there.
Probably come out to see that because we saw him at the.
Yeah, we went out there to the Red Dirt Festival in Deadwood. Yeah.
You guys should come out for that.
He's like, I don't know. He's like, completely nerdy.
Did you see him?
Pirates of the Caribbean movie. He's like,
Yeah.
Did you see him live?
he's like Johnny
Oh.
Depp, Pirates of the Caribbean meets country music singer
He's
performer.
such a strange. I didn't expect that when we saw him live. He's
Loved it.
strange.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Is
Loved
he?
it.
Like when he
Yeah.
talks between
He's
songs,
disgusting
he's
weird.
like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Loved
he's
it.
a strange.
Loved it.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I honestly, until a little while ago, I didn't even know what he looked like. I just liked his music.
Yeah.
We
But
love his music. When we get to Arizona, when we get to Utah and start going down to Moab, it's like nothing
Jackson
but
Dean.
Jackson Dean all the way down. It's just that's all I picture.
yeah,
Okay, you're 4.
yeah.
I would go. I mean, I could go. There's different ways.
4.
Mount Rushmore for what they did and who they are, or Mount Rushmore for just purely vocal talent.
You
But who are important to me. So the first one would be John Fogerty, like Creedence Clearwater, the revival. Just the first time I ever heard that 737 coming out of the sky, I was like that high, but I was like, that guy's screaming. What is that? Just
Mhm.
that whole thing, and the songwriter and the whole, just all of it. John
those are
Fogerty.
people?
You know who John Fogerty is?
Do I?
Yes.
Okay.
Green River. Well, you guys, you know who John Fogerty is.
I
You know
mean,
who Creedence Clearwater is? Fortunate Son.
No.
Rolling on a River.
No.
Okay. Well, he's one of the number ones.
I guess
Because I
road trip.
that, and at the time I didn't have any idea I'd ever want to be a singer. And being a singer, I never had aspirations of being a singer, but like that's the vocal style that I liked. I didn't discover I could maybe even sing sort of like that. But to me, so many people play Creedence Clearwater. You see a cover band and they're going to play a CCR song, and to me it's hollow ground. I don't, because I just like, it's just
Okay.
Okay. Next one isn't even in the country genre, but James Hetfield, like, is just a performer, as a songwriter. I mean, as a guitar player, as a front man, he's just like the whole deal. And his voice is just like
And that's Metallica?
Metallica. Yes. It's James Hetfield.
it's like music
James
trivia right now.
Hetfield. And then Jamie Johnson, for me, like his voice, as soon as he opened his mouth, the very first time I saw him, it was like instantly, he didn't even move. He just stood there. And like, that's when I talk about power, like just the power of him to root an audience. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
he's
yeah.
got you from the first time he starts singing, just
Yep.
from a voice standpoint. And then, of course, he's a great songwriter, and I like his attitude and just all of it.
And his beard.
And the beard and the hair, they're pretty cool these days. He was pretty cool when he had short hair, though, too. Yeah.
That's sorry.
And my fourth one, I a lot of people like Waylon Jennings, and some people like Willie Nelson, or that I like Merle Haggard, just from a vocal standpoint.
Mhm.
Everybody loves Merle Haggard, let's be honest. But like, I think the classic country stuff, I grew up with country, rejected it. I knew it all, but didn't want to hear it. And then I was like personally really hooked on, I had my Walkman. I listened to the oldies station just nonstop. Just
Yeah.
all the time. Like, had them all memorized. But when I came back around and we lived in Texas, I was like, I get it. And if you're a person, especially if this even makes it on the call, because we're way past any amount of time. If you don't feel like, if you love Morgan Wallen and you love rock music, or you're like, I can't get the hang of this old country, it's boring, it's slow and shit. I don't know that I can say Merle Haggard without saying maybe that Hank Williams II is my favorite. But at any rate, if you go and listen to those live albums, it's all the difference. Like George Jones, Merle Haggard, they all have many live albums. You pull the live albums up, it's rock and roll. It's sleazy, it's dirty, it's nasty.
Yep.
And you also have to think back to the times, and I'm going off here. But you go back to the times in Nashville, the Grand Ole Opry, they didn't want, don't be wild. You know, even though that's what was happening. So those recordings are toned down on purpose.
Yep.
The guitar player is like, well, usually I play my amp and it's on 8. And they're like, geez, no, that's loud. It's here. That's how we're going to record it. And the drummer, you're lucky you're on here, drummer. That's crazy rock and roll stuff there. But so those recordings, yeah, they're kind of boring to an extent. I mean, you can still love the songs. I do. Like Silver Wings, I love it. But
You're talking about like the
live albums, that's
Yeah.
it. The live albums. If you don't get it, go listen to the live album. Just skip it all. Go to Live in 78, whatever. And then you'll be like, oh, shit. Yeah, this is awesome.
Perfect. I love it.
That's what I think. So, yeah, but I don't know. I forgot to mention Hank Williams Jr.
You only had 4, so.
Yeah.
I don't know that I can put one.
I mean, maybe if Trump makes it on the, the Mount Rushmore someday, then there'll be a slot for a 5th person, and you can add.
Fair. Hank Williams Jr. though, he's just such his songs sound drunk.
The political, I could totally see him being like Trump, for Trump. Like,
let's just change that. Yeah.
Anyway,
but seriously, Hank Williams Jr. I mean, his music just sounds drunk. It sounds rebellious.
Yeah.
And he fell off a mountain, for God's sakes.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
You guys didn't know that? Yes. He's big into hunting and mountaineering. In the 80s, he was climbing and he fell like 1,200 feet.
Where?
I forget where, but anyway, it was in the Rockies. He almost died. He nearly died. The beard and the glasses are because his face was scarred up.
I thought you were going to say that broke his fall.
Yeah, I mean, his face broke his fall. He was in the hospital. Yeah.
Oh, man. Did not know that.
Look it up. Yeah. That's the whole beard and the glasses hiding his face. That's because his face is scarred up.
Okay, you've embellished a little.
Was it 1,200?
No.
300 feet?
Hank Williams Jr. fell almost 500 feet.
500.
Which is still, I mean, that's still a significant fall.
Let's not discount.
Off of Ajax Peak in Montana on August 8th, 1975.
Mm-hmm.
The snow beneath him fell, and he caused him to fall.
I collect rock and roll biographies.
The fall left him with multiple severe skull and facial fractures. 6 men carried Williams to a helicopter, which flew him to Missoula Community Hospital. He spent over 7 hours in surgery. Okay, well, the more you know. And that is how we will end today's segment.
That's how every argument ends at our house. Google, save the date.
Oh, gosh. Well, it's been awesome talking to you guys. You guys are great. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah,
chill with me tonight.
Yeah.
Sorry it was long.
No, I loved it. It was great. Really great.
It was really awesome learning about just how you've been doing what you're doing. I think it's awesome. I just keep kicking ass.
Thank you.
The new bus thing is awesome.
I was almost like inclined to ask about the old one until you told me we had to shift it in reverse. Then I was like, okay, maybe not.
I mean, it would take some learning, but you could do it.
I do think though, like finding out what websites you were looking, where you were watching, how you came upon the one. I think that would probably be some good stuff to share in case somebody else needs to buy a bus. So
yeah, for sure. You never know. Never know. Yeah, it was far less expensive than what we thought, because we're like, man, we're never gonna find anything for less than 150,000, because that's and that is definitely not in the budget.
Yeah. And just learning about your songwriting process gives me a lot of hope and solace in my own.
Yeah. No, this is really good. I hope that more people take you up on it, just to have the conversation. And everybody does it different. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but
right. Yeah, there is no rules. It's just whatever, however it comes out. So yeah, well, think about my collab offer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll be in touch.
Okay, sounds good. And I can't wait to hear your album tomorrow.
Tomorrow. All right.
Very cool. All right. See ya later.
Cool.
Yeah.
See ya.